Welcome to My Watches with Ben. Today's video is the fourth video in a 6-video series on the wristwatch type of dive watch. The full video series will end in me identifying the top 10 dive watches out of all 633 watches that I review. Today we're just looking at like 1/5 of it basically. So this is the fourth video. I forgot to mention in videos 2 and 3, but all 6 of these videos are in YouTube right now, and they're going to release every couple days. So in 2 days, video number 5, Luxury, is going to release, and then in 4 days from now, the 6th video, the final video, will release. So look out for that. But yeah, in this video, video number 4, it's a price tier of $990 to $2,200. The category I call premium. It's serious money in this price range. These are expensive watches. There is kind of a shift. Now that we're up above $1,000, there's a definite shift in quality. You're gonna see a ton of really, really nice watches. You know, the most famous watches are kind of in that luxury price tier, but we've got some really famous ones. The Doxa Sub 300T, the Squale 1521. Yeah, there's some other ones I have on the screen here. The Mido Ocean Star, the Seiko Zimbe, things like that. We're also gonna look at like the Formex Reef. We're gonna look at the Marathon G-SAR. And there's also gonna be ones you've never heard of, like Archimede and Epos. You probably haven't heard of those. My attempt was to look at practically all of the watches that exist. There were some I intentionally left out because the watchmaker just had so many darn watches. In this price category though, I really tried to just find them all. So if I missed something, it was probably unintentional. But yeah, during this video, I'm gonna rate 132 dive watches. Tell you which ones are the best, in my opinion. The methodology for how I rate these, you know, I use a scoring system out of a 100-point scale. The methodology for how I did that is in the first video. It's actually like 35 minutes long just for me to explain the scoring system. So, you know, I wasn't gonna put that in all the videos. I think that's a bit much. If you really wanna know the methodology, that's in the first video, which is linked in the description. And there you'll find other background information like why I did it the way I did, all these sorts of things. But yeah, this is a good time to mention, if you only have a small amount of time, I would go ahead and skip ahead to the top 10. There's timestamps in the description for you to skip ahead. All right, now for an overview. All right, premium dive watches. What did I find? Here is the chart showing all the scores. I chose to kind of conceptualize this like a grading, the American grading system. So you have A+ down to F. They're just scores. It's just a numerical value on a 100-point scale. So a 92 is good. A 62 is not good. The D-. So you don't have to understand the American grading system to get this. And on this chart, you see I've got green. Those are good grades. Yellow is like passing grades. And red is a bad grade. Red is failing. I know C- isn't traditionally failing, but in my family growing up, C- was failing. Failing in my parents' eyes. But in the green, there's actually 54 watches. 41% of these darn things get a good grade. That's awesome. Yeah, the premium price category, you've got a lot of watches with these good grades. There are 51 watches in the yellow, so that's 39%. And then in the bottom, in the failing grades, the ones I don't recommend, there's 27 watches, so 20%. But yeah, overall, 80% of the watches are recommended in this price tier. This has a lower percentage of reds than any other price category, including luxury, actually. It's got the highest percentage of watches I recommend. There's just so many good watches in this price range. You're gonna see a lot of chronometers. You're gonna see like deeper depth ratings generally than the last one. In the last video, you know, we'd see 500s here and there. Actually, we saw a lot of 500s. Here you're gonna see more. You're gonna see 600s. You're gonna see 1,000-meter depth ratings. And then hopefully they're not going to be quite as thick as the ones before. But we'll see. Let's see when we look through. Here's the overview. I've grayed out the top 10 so you can't see. I'll put my picture above these so you really can't see it. But look at all these watches. These are they're not necessarily in the exact order, but you see you've got your reds, your yellows, and your greens. They each have these medallions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start at number 11 here, this Serica, and go all the way down to 132nd place. The U-boat Dark Moon here. Sad that it did so poorly. It looks really cool. But yeah, there's so many cool things in here. There's the Seiko 62 Moss. The deepest depth rating watch of all is in this price category. That's the H2O Kalmar 2 Deep Diver. 25,000 meters water resistance. Way deeper than any point on the planet Earth. You can't, even if you chuck this thing in the deepest part of the ocean, it's not going to get anywhere near 25,000 meters deep. All right, before I dive in, one other housekeeping thing. There's more to a watch than just its specs. Here I'm just rating them based on their specs. In that last video, I am going to add other elements, more subjective things like the looks and aesthetics, the distinctiveness of the design, and then I will add affordability in too, because that actually really is important in the real world. Yeah, I won't spoil it. There's some cool things in that 6th video, so I won't spoil it for you. But yeah, I add a lot of other elements to the mix to determine the final top 10. Oh, and the loom. I take a more subjective view on the loom impressiveness, rather than just like what elements are loomed. I'll take a look at these loom shots and see what's the most impressive, and that'll factor in the final score as well. All right, that was enough of a preamble. Let's dive in. In 11th place, we have the Seiko 5303. Price of $1,610, size of 39 millimeters, and water resistance of 300 meters. 300 is totally adequate. That's going to serve 99% of actual divers, their needs. I mean, I can't even imagine someone who's going below 300 meters. I know sometimes you're just like, oh, you just want the 600 for the extra safety or whatever. That's fine. That's fine. I get it. This is not an exact science with the 300, I don't think. Yeah, if you want a deeper depth rating, I certainly don't judge there. Loom, the pip looks nice and big, but this loom shot is not so great. Like, I can't even tell if this is... I mean, I know it is loomed. It says that in the description. But, man, just turn off the lights, people. That way we can tell if your loom is any good. So that's disappointing. But I think this is the black dial that they have here. It comes in a black, a blue. This has the multi-function bezel here where you get your minutes and you get your dual time, your hours and minutes. They say hours. That's cool. As you can see on the dial, it is a chronometer. We're going to see tons of those in here. That gets you a couple extra points over just a regular automatic movement, so that's cool. At 12.2 millimeters thick, it is roughly 1.5 millimeters thinner than the average for the 300 meter water resistance. That average being 13.7. It's got a steel mesh bracelet. I don't think we've seen that yet. Steel mesh is really nice. It feels really good. I love how a steel mesh bracelet feels. And there's a ton of adjustments you can do with it. So it's actually, I kind of like it better than like the traditional link bracelet. So steel mesh is really nice. In that budget price category, there's an homage of this from a Chinese brand. And they still do the French here, the ours. So that's kind of funny. Anyway, total score of 87, B+. In 12th place is the Squale T183 Forged Carbon. Price of $1,780, size of 42 millimeters, and 600 meters water resistance. Beautiful loom shot here. That is looking really nice. They've got their cool little dolphin, or I don't know what this is supposed to be here. Is it a shark? It kind of looks like a shark. It says Squale, and it says Squale up here. But yeah, I kind of like that. That's charming that they have that there. It says 60 Atmos on it, so 600 meters. Forged Carbon, I really like how this one looks. It's not that, I think steel looks better. Steel is a better looking watch. But Forged Carbon, if you're just going from like a material standpoint, just looking at specs, Forged Carbon is technically superior. It's not going to corrode in salt water. It can't. It has a higher tensile strength than steel, and yet it is so light. So it gets, any Forged Carbon is going to score better than an equivalent steel because the material is just superior. Aesthetics, they made it work for this. It looks really cool how it's all swirly in the design. I really like that. I love what they did here with the bezel with the dots on every single minute. They just made the numbers small. That's how I like it. Squale, this is a tool watch. I love how they did that. That is my preference personally, but I'm more of a tool watch kind of guy. It is 15.5 millimeters thick. For the 600 meter water resistance, that's actually a little thicker than average. The average is 15.0. It's a 0.5 millimeter thicker than the average for the 600 meter water resistance rating. Total score of 86. In 13th place is the Formex Reef. Price of $1,960, size of 42 millimeters, I think at the bezel, and it's 300 meters water resistance. So yeah, this might wear kind of big. It's got these wings like the Patek Philippe Nautilus. Dial looks really cool. You get a color match date wheel with these angular cuts into the wheel. That looks good. I really like the dial. They offer this in other colors, black, silver, green, white. And then you get bezels. You don't get a white bezel, but I think you can get any of these other colors as the bezel as well. And the cool thing with Formex is that these bezels just come off. Like with your hands, you can just pull it off, snap it off, and snap on another one. So you can get multiple bezels. Each bezel is $175. So keep that in mind. Add that to the price tag if you're planning on swapping out the bezels regularly. If I was going to do that, I would get a black or a gray dial and maybe get like a green or a blue bezel. I don't know if I would actually do that. Yeah, some of the color combos look pretty weird. This particular color combo looks the best to me with the blue and then the gray bezel. I like that you get a loom pip. This is sort of like a Yachtmaster style bezel. And the Yachtmaster does not have any loom, so I'm glad Formex put a loom pip on there. It is very thin. 11.4 millimeters thick, is almost 2.5 millimeters thinner than the average for the 300 meter water resistance. So that's very nice. It does have a extension on this bracelet too, so that's good. And this thing is a chronometer too. I think you're getting a lot for your 1960 here. We're talking about an expensive watch here, but I think you're getting a lot for your money here. Score of 86. In 14th place is the Ocean Crawler Decompression. Price of $999, 44 millimeters across, and 600 meters water resistance. What do they call this? Shark tooth or something? Shark mesh? I don't know. It's some kind of mesh bracelet. Sizing these is a little bit weird because you just end up like clipping these darn links. I think that freaks people out. It would freak me out, actually. Wouldn't want to mess it up. And then also you're kind of roped in. Although it does say bracelet extension, the clasp itself does have some sort of adjustment. But this is cool. You get a decompression scale on here. You get your meters and your feet. So 40 meters or 135 feet. It shows you, how much time you have to spend at different decompression stops up on your way up from the deep. Yeah, read the manual if you want to understand this decompression scale, how it works exactly. There's different stops where you have to spend certain amounts of time. So just look into that. If you're a diver, you probably know all this stuff already. I clearly don't. I'm not a diver. I want to learn one day. Maybe I should have done that before doing the video. My apologies. Yeah, look into that. You get a date complication, which is nice. Nice loom here. Full loom on the bezel. And then they did loom some of this decompression scale just to kind of add some interest. Actually, reading the basic time is going to be difficult with all this stuff on the dial. I don't think you really need the decompression scale on the dial, to be honest. I don't think that adds a ton. It's probably more useful to have it on the bezel if you're going to have it, but no deco times are probably better. No decompression times that just show you like how deep you go, how long you have to come up. Because I don't think people really want to do the decompression thing. Pretty cool watch. It's got kind of a Plo-Prof minute hand here. I like how that looks. Total score of 86. In 15th place is the Mido Ocean Star 600. Price of $1,780. Size of 43.5 millimeters. And water resistance of 600, as it said in the title. Beautiful loom. This is excellent loom. Yeah, you get a lot with this Mido, actually. You get a chronometer. You get 600 meters water resistance. This thickness, 14.6, is actually below the average of 15.0 for the 600 meter water resistance rating. You get a bracelet extension. Yeah, you get a lot here. In the last video, there was that Certina DS Action that looked kind of similar. This one is clearly way better, but it's also way more expensive. Total score of 85. In 16th place is the Stova Pro Diver Color. Price of $1,934, size of 42 millimeters, and water resistance of 1,000. They have a lot of colors here. Black, silver, orange, light blue, white, and this kind of lime green. I don't care for this combo with the silicone strap here. That silicone strap is looking bad. That needs to go. You could do a lot of other things. You could do a gray silicone. You could do a black. Yeah, I think gray or black would be good with this. I really like that the hands are outlined black. I mentioned that in prior videos. That is what you should do. But again, so often the indexes are not as intense as the hands. I would have liked for the indexes borders to be just as thick as the hands borders. I think that would look good. I love that you've got the markings all the way around this bezel, and you have the minutes. These triangles are a little freaky though. Do we really need triangles at 15 and 45? It might actually be super useful. This is a titanium case. That's nice. Nice looking crown guards here. Nice little shape here. Good looking loom. Totally decent. Loom pip is a little small, but that's... The standard is to have kind of a little teeny pip. Some watches excel by having a bigger pip or just having full loom and that sort of thing. At 15.6 millimeters thick, it is just about average for the 1,000 meter water resistance rating. Average thickness for that depth rating, which is thick. I mean, 15.6 is thick. That's what you're getting into with 1,000 meters though, so just be aware of that. Unless you get one of these super thin ones. In that last video, there was that Kalmar that was 12 millimeters thick, but it was like 3,000 meters depth rating. It's just ridiculous. So there's exceptions to the rule, but usually when you get this deep of a water resistance rating, it's also going to be pretty darn thick. Total score of 85. In 17th place is the Ocean Crawler Bolt. Price of $1,299, 42 millimeters across, and 600 meters water resistance. You've got this kind of integrated bracelet design. I don't think you're going to be swapping this bracelet out. I think you're wedded to it. It does have an extension on it though, so you might be really happy with that. I would keep it on the bracelet. I'm a bracelet guy, so I like watches with a cool bracelet. This seems to have a pretty darn cool bracelet. It's got a PRX style. They're like single links, but they do this the way they fold here. There's inexplicably no crown guards. It would have been quite easy for them to just kind of extend this a little bit. It might even match the other side better. To just have some kind of crown guards, this is weird. Full loom dial with like a blue mixed with the green, that looks really nice. I wish they had turned off the lights to take the picture. That just turn off the lights, but they didn't. It's nice you get a little loom thing under the date here, the 6 o'clock date. Cool how they have handwritten bolt here. I like the pop of orange. This is very tooly. Very easy to read the time on this. You've got minute numerals in 5-minute increments all around this chapter ring here. That looks really good. The bezel looks good. I'm really digging this one from a utility standpoint. I think it's going to serve you very well. At 12.3 millimeters thick, it is almost 3 millimeters thinner than the average for the 600 meter water resistance rating. Yeah, this is looking good. Total score of 85. In 18th place is the Marathon GSAR Anthracite. Price of $1,800, size of 41 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. I actually owned this exact watch. I owned the Marathon GSAR Anthracite. I think I paid $700 or something for it. It was way, way cheaper than this. I didn't care for it. The rubber strap is really kind of sticky. And it smelled weird. They had this vanilla scent to it that smelled really, really bad. I'm weird about scents. I like scents that are really good, but if there's a strong smell and it's not quality, it's like a cheap perfume, it really bothers me. I would prefer for there to be no smell rather than this weird vanilla scent that they had. That was gross. My bezel was misaligned. It looks like on the product listing, this bezel is slightly misaligned to the left. That's what it looks like to me. Yep, you can see right here. You look at the 3 and the 9. The bezel's slightly misaligned on the product listing. It's very difficult to tell as well when you have it because it's such a deep dial. It's hard to tell. I think the movement is relatively thin. There's just a super deep dial to accommodate the tritium tubes on the hands. So that dial is really deep down in there. You can sort of see, like, this is a straight wall, but you can see it kind of coming in through that perspective. I mean, I really like that it says, like, U.S. government. This one doesn't, but you can get one that says U.S. government. It's got the radiation symbol. It says H3. You've got all the standard time and the military time. I like it from that standpoint. It was a really weird wearing experience, and I think if you look at reviews, you'll see that. It's a weird wearing experience. It just has straight up on the sides. It feels like it sticks way out. It's only 14 millimeters thick. So for the 300 meter water resistance, that's just slightly above average. The average being 13.7 millimeters. Just a touch above the average, but it feels super thick. It sounds like I hate the watch. I don't hate the watch. I really liked it. I had to sell it at the time. I couldn't keep it. If I could have kept it, I would be happy to have this in my collection. I think it's really cool. I really like tool watches. This is a really cool tool watch. But I'm not crying so much that I had to get rid of it. It's not like I miss it because there were some really weird things about it. The crown feels so good. The crosshatch pattern feels really good. I love to have a really grippy crown. This one feels excellent. And of course, all the time setting functions feel really nice. You know, some watches you pull out the crown and you feel some weirdness, like it's like hopping a gear or something. You feel like you're breaking the watch. This one felt really smooth, really nice when you operated that crown. So they've got a good movement in here. Total score of 85. In 19th place is the Laco Squad Watches Atacama 0.2. Price of $1,007, 46 millimeters across, and 500 meters water resistance. You've got a cool 12 o'clock crown, and you've got this little fold-over piece that envelops the crown. It's interesting. This is, we're going to see this more in the luxury category. There's a few watches that do this from French makers, ZRC and Triton. And it's a really cool feature because if your crown isn't fully screwed down, this isn't going to close the way it's supposed to. And you're going to feel that when you're trying to put the watch on. So it'll kind of warn you, hey, your crown is not screwed down all the way. And then also, when it is on your wrist, that crown is super protected. Nothing can harm that darn crown. So this is a really cool way of doing it. I like that a lot. You get a count down bezel. That's more unusual than the count up. And they did all the slashes. They put slashes in between the numbers here. That's really cool. So you get all the slashes. They really want you to be able to tell the time and use this as a timing bezel. You get orange loom on the minute hand. Full loomed hour hand. That's nice the way they did that. It appears there's no texture or any design element on the dial. It's just a flat black, matte black. There's nothing there. These fonts are a little bit more modern, very clean. Yeah, this is a very cool tool watch. 500 meters is more than enough for anything you would ever need. There is no helium escape valve, so if you're a professional, this is not going to work for you. But for the rest of us, it's totally fine. We don't need the valve. The valve is only for those professionals. At 13.5 millimeters thick, it is 1 millimeter thinner than the average for the 500 meter water resistance rating. Very cool option from Laco. I would have preferred a negative display date wheel here, so a black background and white numerals. I think that would look better on this, but it's totally fine. It's nice you have the date, so I'm happy there's a date. Hopefully the orange pip actually lasts. Sometimes color loom doesn't last quite as long. Total score of 84. In 20th place is the Ocean 7 CP1 ceramic. Price of $1,250. Size of 44 millimeters and 1,500 meters water resistance. Crazy looking lugs on this. Very wide strap width. I have no idea how wide that would be. It's a 44 millimeter watch. This is huge. Probably a 26 or more for the strap width. Crazy lugs. I've never seen anything like that. Ceramic is really cool. It's very, very scratch resistant. It's very hard to scratch ceramic, but it does have a propensity to shatter that steel won't have. I would look into this, see how this particular one holds up, because there's different ceramic recipes. Like the Bell & Ross ceramic, I know is more shatter resistant than normal ceramic, like your coffee mug or whatever. It's not gonna break as easily. But I don't know about this Ocean 7, so I'd look into that. The thickness of 17.4, there aren't that many that have the 1,500. 1,000 meters water resistance, the average is 15.7. 2,000, the average is 18.5. If you just kind of go in between the 1,000 and the 2,000 meter water resistance ratings, the average, you'd expect it to be like around 17. So 17.4, that's kind of where you would expect it to be. That's nothing crazy for this water resistance rating. Yes, a 17 millimeter watch is quite thick. This one is actually 17 millimeters thick. So it is a thick watch, but this one's only a 500 meter. This one on the screen is 1,500. So yeah, if you get a 1,500 meter depth rating, it's going to be a thick watch. I think that's fine. Total score of 84. In 21st place is the Laco Hamburg DIN 8330. Price of $2,170. Size of 44 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. This is clearly like a pilot watch. You can use it as a dive watch. You've got the Flieger hands, the onion crown, the little dots, the triangle, the 369. There's even a little plane on it. Like, it's definitely a pilot watch. The category of dive watch is fun. I don't think we need to exclude the Laco just because there's a plane on it or something. I think it's fine to include it. Laco makes such good watches. 200 is totally fine for the recreational diver. That's probably going to suit all your needs. So I wouldn't worry about the depth rating. Look at the lume. This is so good. I have a Laco, and the lume is so good on it. They really do a great job on the lume. That's one of the highlights of the Laco watch in particular. It's just really, really good lume. And you see that here. You get the date. It doesn't interrupt the lume pattern at all. That's what I like. If you're going to have, well, I love having a date on a dive watch, and I love it not interrupting the lume. So this is great. This is what I prefer, is do that. I think that's the best you can do. It has a sailcloth strap on it by default. That's pretty nice. Those can be kind of rough. Sometimes on the back they've got leather or something. I'm not sure with this one. At 13.6 millimeters thick, it is a touch thicker than average, the average being 13.3 for the 200 meter depth rating. I love the full loomed second here. This is going to be so nice. My Laco, I bring it in, I come in from the outside, and just in a normal lighting, I'm seeing it glow at me, and like just regular lighting. It is so bright. I would expect this one to be the same. Certainly from this lume shot, it looks like it is really nice. Yeah, cool option from Laco. Score of 84. In 22nd place is the Delma Cayman Bronze 500 meters. Price of $1,770. Size of 42 millimeters and 500 meters water resistance. And in their official product shot, it's sort of hard to see the bezel, but when I've seen shots at this from other angles, it's very clear. You can see these markings a lot more clearly in just like everyday shots under natural lighting. Yeah, I would look at some other pictures of this if you're at all interested, because the product image makes it look like this is super washed out. You can't really see the bezel, but I think if you look at other pictures, you'll see that you can see it pretty well. Comes in a few other colors, black, brown, and green, in addition to this blue. Yeah, the colors look nice. I like to see these numbers here. I love that there's military time on the dial. 13.3 is thinner than average for the 500 meter water resistance rating. Over a millimeter thinner than average. Very nice. Score of 84. In 23rd place is the Ginault Silent Service. Price of $1,149, 41 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. Kind of a cool rose logo. It says Kinetic Continuous. Submersible Maritime Precision Chronometer. Okay, well, they got out their thesaurus for this one. A lot of text on the dial if you like that sort of thing. There's no date. Oh, wait. You can get it with a date or without. So, okay. This particular picture shows no date, but you can get a date version. That's fine. They took it sideways. It's on some table or something. I had to work with the product images they had. They must not have had a good one with the date on it. That's fine. Nice ceramic bezel on here. Full lume bezel. Totally loomed. This lume looks really excellent. Hopefully it lasts a long time. It looks really nice. See how shiny it is over those lume plots. There's clearly some kind of cover over this. So I bet that's nice. The bracelet has an extension on it, a diver's extension, so that's really good. 12.1 millimeters thick it's about 1.5 millimeters thinner than the average for the 300 meter water resistance. Total score of 84. In 24th place is the Walteri Deep Oceaner. Price of $1,990, size of 44.5 millimeters, and 1,000 meters water resistance. I like the stencil numerals on the bezel. That looks really nice. The hands are cool, really chunky. The lume looks really good on this. Just solid lume. I like that they put a little bit of lume on the other side of that date window. Often you don't get that. The 44.5 millimeters is probably going to be too big for a lot of guys. I love a big watch. This one is 52 millimeters, the one I have. So I like wearing big watches. 44.5 would totally feel comfortable to me. I actually prefer a dive watch that size. But, a lot of guys want a 39 or 40. So that would rule this out for you. Nice blue here. It appears that's the only color. I might have missed something on the scorecard, but according to the scorecard, blue is all you get. This one's not a chronometer. In this price range, that's something to pay attention to, because for this price, you can get chronometers. So when it's not a chronometer, you kind of wonder, why isn't it? Especially if it says Swiss made. You're like, I know it's really expensive to do that, but there is some value to it. Let's recognize that. They're paying a lot of money. That's the sort of thing you want to see, in my opinion. It is 15 millimeters thick, which is thinner than the average. The average for 1,000 meters is 15.7, so this is almost a millimeter thinner than average for that depth rating. Huge crown. That crown is nuts. It is protected by crown guards in this like weird way, but yeah, that's looking good. Total score of 84. In 25th place is the Monarte Squid. Price of $1,071, size of 40.5 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. Very cool looking loom pattern on these hands. You get this kind of skeletonized loom. That looks really cool. It almost looks like there's a full loom bezel, but there's not. Only the triangle is loomed, as you can see on the shot. I like this 6 o'clock date wheel, and there's some loom underneath it too, so that's nice. Really cool looking dial pattern. I think this might be some kind of Kickstarter thing. You've got a zigzag pattern on the crown. That's really nice. 11.4 millimeters thick, is over 2 millimeters thinner than the average for the 300 meter water resistance rating of 13.7. Very nice. Score of 84. In 26th place is the Hamilton Khaki Navy Frogman Auto. Price of $1,145, 42 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. It's the first one in this video that we've seen that has a locking lever. So it says lock, so you have no confusion about what this actually does. Locks down that crown. Those are cool because when it's not locked, you know you're not ready to go. You're not ready to dive in. But once that thing is locked down, you know, my crown is fully secure. No water's getting in this thing. It's pretty nice. It does add some width to this. I doubt that the 42 includes this crazy lock. So keep that in mind. This is going to be significant chunkiness on the outside of that watch. We typically don't include the crown in the overall dimensions, but look at how big that thing is. This is bigger than a 42, I guarantee you. You get your date here in between 4 and 5. Cool handset. It's different. Sort of like the Tudor Ranger, but not really. Really big 12. It's kind of a dated look to me. The bezel's really nice. You get all these markings all the way around. It's a very tooly dive watch here. And I think it will do the job. Score of 84. In 27th place is the Squale 2002A 101 Atmos. Price of $1,676. Size of 44 millimeters. And water resistance of 1,010 meters. Sorry, it's a 101 Atmos. I did this wrong here on the scorecard. Get 10 extra meters on this thing. Loom looks really good. The loom shot is a little bit funny, but it's really good loom. Full loom bezel. It's got some sort of sapphire cover or something that's looking really good. And that'll protect that loom so it doesn't get scratched off. So that's really nice. I love an orange minute hand. I really like that. This color looks really nice here, this navy blue. Looks like you can get silver and pale blue as well. It's not like a baby blue like this. It's Squale's like azzurro, the azzurro blue. The thickness is 16 millimeters, which is above average for the 1000. Just a touch above. The average is 15.7. So, you know, you're not going to really tell the difference. It's about an average for the 1,000 meter dive watch. Oh, it's 1,010. Okay, so that accounts for those extra 0.3 millimeters of thickness. So it's totally average. Funky looking case. You get a recessed crown. I put that here. Not really crown guards, but the crown is recessed into the case, so that will protect it too. Total score of 83. In 28th place is the Tracer P67. Price of $1,380. Size of 46 millimeters and 500 meters water resistance. And it looks like you get a conventional loom pip on your bezel, and you just get a little ring of loom. Tracer likes to do the little ring of loom. I think that looks so cool. I like that a lot. Just adds a little bit to it. The tritium loom on this is so nice. Blue and orange is such a good combination on this tritium loom. It looks so different from other loom. This dark blue, it just looks good. You can see it really clearly, but it is a darker color. It looks really nice. And this is crazy. They have tritium loom tubes for every single one of these minute markings, all the way around the dial. That is so nice. They even have a couple extra ones here just for fun, right here under where it says Tracer. just a couple extra tubes. Just really get your money's worth on this. So I guess there's 60, there's one on the second, so 63, 64, 65. 65 tubes from my count. These flat tubes look so good too. Okay, so how thick is this? 15 millimeters thick. That is half a millimeter thicker than the average for 500 meters. It's just a little thicker than average. And it's an automatic tritium watch. So they did a good job because it's hard to get a tritium watch to be kind of an average size. Typically they have to do a quartz or something to get it that just normal size, because the tritium hands require a deeper set dial. So it's nice that this is close to the average thickness. I think 15 is going to feel fine. 46 is really big, but that'll make the 15 feel a little bit more normal. When the diameter is really small and it's really thick, that ratio is off. So at least it's 15 thick, but it's also 46 wide. I think that's just going to feel fine. It's going to feel like a big watch. It is a big watch, but it's not going to be too crazy. Love that you get your military time on here. I've complained about wave patterns on the dial in the past. This one looks fine to me. I like this. It looks fine. And you can also get this in black or green. Total score of 83. In 29th place is the Christopher Ward C60 Pro 300 Bronze. Price of $1,300. Size 42 millimeters and water resistance of 300. You get your numerals in 5-minute increments all around the bezel, but there's no minute markings. That's unfortunate. Definitely loses some points for that. Color match date wheel is looking really good. I mentioned in the previous video there was a brown watch that I was like, that's the best looking brown watch. The Charlie Paris. I actually think the Charlie Paris does look better than this, but this is a nice brown. That is a really nice color. They have a ton of other colors: black, blue, tan, pale blue, and white. This looks good though. Lume shot looks really nice. I think the lume's going to be good. 11.5 millimeters thick is over 2 millimeters thinner than the average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. So that's good. Total score of 83. In 30th place is the Synchron Poseidon. Price of $1,290. Size of 42 millimeters and 300 meters water resistance. It looks like a Doxa, but it is not a Doxa. These things sell out really quickly for some reason. Very retro looking watch here. You've got all the minute markings around that bezel. That's really nice. Got a plongeur style minute hand here. That's fine. It's yellow. I think that looks good. I could have done without the Fotina thing, but it's okay. This whale logo with the trident thing is looking really cool. 12.5 millimeters thick is 1 millimeter thinner than the average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. So that's nice. Looks pretty darn cool to me. Score of 83. And in 31st place, the deepest dive watch of all time that anyone's ever seen by a long, long shot is the H2O Kalmar 2 Deep Diver. Price of $1,350, 44 millimeters across, 25,000 meters water resistance. Significantly deeper than any ocean depth anywhere on planet Earth. You can test it in some kind of machine that will simulate those pressures. So it is to that rating. Why do you need that rating? You don't. There's no reason. It's 23 millimeters thick. 23. Okay, so this one's 17 right here. Let's just add 5 on top. Actually, that's not too crazy. That's not so bad. I remember there was a watch that had like a 32 millimeter thickness. I cut that one from the video series. There wasn't enough information about it. I think I couldn't actually complete the scorecard. I did have that thickness, but there were things I couldn't figure out about it. But anyway, this H2O looks really cool. You can get it in a black dial or a red dial. The black dial might look a little bit better. This orange minute hand is really doing it for me. I love the orange minute hand. Full lume on this bezel is so bright. It's blown out the camera with how bright this darn thing is. Well, you can see they lowered the shutter speed or whatever, so you have that full second hand going around. They took a good shot. And you get credit for that too. Like, take a good lume shot. I think if you can take a good lume shot and show a good lume shot, that proves you've got good lume. If you fail to take a good lume shot, then we just don't know. So yeah, the lume shot definitely matters. Yeah, I don't know what to say about this. 1350 for the deepest depth rating of all time. That's pretty darn cool. Yeah, H2O deserves more recognition than they get. I had never heard of these darn guys till I did this video, and they've got so many cool watches. Yeah, that H2O Colomar Slim that we saw in the last video, crazy. 3,000 meters water resistance and 12 millimeters thick. You know, the deepest depth rating to thinnest size, like if you divided one by the other, whatever, however you do that, that would probably be the best of all. So yeah, H2O deserves more credit. But yeah, deepest diver of all time, score of 82. In 32nd place is the Mido Ocean Star Tribute. Price of $1,070, size of 40.5 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. Loom shot looks okay. It's got your standard dive watch loom, loomed indices and hands, and a loom pip. So that's fine. Day date, it's not a chronometer. Spend $1,000, you're starting to get in chronometer territory. This one is not a chronometer. But it seems okay. It seems good. The bronze looks nice to me. I take it back. It is not bronze. It is a PVD steel case. As I've mentioned before, PVD steel might actually be better from bronze from just like a technical standpoint, because that PVD will offer you the corrosion resistance, and then you'll have the tensile strength of the steel, which is higher than bronze. So it might be superior actually. Total score of 82. In 33rd place is the CWC Automatic Mark II Date. Price of $1,378, size of 41 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. This is a tool watch, through and through. Great loom on it. You can tell, look at that gigantic triangle. Like, it's going to be easy to see this thing. It would have been nice if they had a little bit of loom here on the other side of that date wheel. That would have been good. Just a little, just on the right-hand side. You know, so many watches do that. So when you see that it's missing, it's kind of like, oh, well, you guys could have done that too. Why didn't you? 12 millimeters thick is almost 2 millimeters thinner than the average for the 300 meter depth rating. So that's nice. I like that you get all the markings all the way around. You know, this is kind of a military watch, kind of a soldier's watch. It would be good for that purpose. 12 millimeters thick is actually really good for a dive watch. The average thickness of the dive watch out of all 633 is 13.99. So 14 millimeters. For the 300 meter water resistance rating, it's 13.7. You know, 200, that's probably what people are most used to. That's 13.3. Once you get under 13 millimeters thick, you're talking about a thin dive watch. So 12 is very nice. 12 is a thin dive watch. The Submariner, Rolex Submariner, is praised for its thinness, and it's a 12. Total score of 82. In 34th place is the Delma Shell Star Decompression. Price of $1,475, size of 44 millimeters, and 500 meters water resistance. And they really went to town with this decompression scale, like with the loom here. They loomed the little tiny numbers here, the 35 meters, the 115 feet. These decompression scale like tracks here. Like with that other one with the decompression scale, I think it's not really needed. It's more of a style thing rather than like a utility thing. You just like looking at it and thinking about diving. That's why you have this on here. It is going to make the watch a little bit harder to tell the time with. I can't tell which one is easier to read, the Delma or the Ocean Crawler. Neither one of them is particularly easy to read with all this crazy stuff on the dial, but it's still a fine watch. I like these kind of alternating stripe, like racing pattern thing around here. That's kind of cool. There's just a ton to look at. If you want a loud, interesting looking watch, well, here you go. There's a lot going on here. They went a little bit too artsy here on this loom shot though, because, you know, I really just want to see what's loomed and what isn't. And yeah, they didn't turn the lights all the way off, but it looks like you only get a loom pip, and then you get loomed hands, and then you get all these extra little decompression things loomed on here. So I said full loom on the bezel. What? The bezel isn't full loomed. Okay, this might be a mistake here. I think we should take off some points here. I don't think this is a full loom bezel. I think it loses 3 points. Was I confused just by that image? I don't know. Anyway, let's say it's a score of 79. Still a cool watch though. In 35th place is the Ocean Crawler Core Diver V4. Price of $999, 44 millimeters across, and 600 meters water resistance. Very similar to that Ocean Crawler Decompression one. Same size case, probably the same case. Same bracelet. Some funky looking colors. This is crazy with the salmon and the turquoise. It's definitely like Miami Vice vibes here. They always seem to do that Ploprof minute hand. That's fine. We've probably seen enough of these ocean crawlers though. Maybe I put too many in. Full loom bezel. As I said, yeah, it's basically the same darn thing as before, so no need to rehash it. Score of 82. In 36th place is the Yema Submarine. $990, 40.5 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. You do get a full loom bezel, or what I call loomed hash, because there's no minute markings. It's a silly thing to call it. I'm sorry I called it loomed hash. Like go back in time, I would have thought of something better. You need it to be short words so it'll fit on the scorecard, and also, like, that's what I called it. It's a weird thing to call it. Interesting you got the slashes between the numbers. I think it looks bad. I don't like how that looks. It almost looks like it says 510, but it's just 5/0. That's kind of weird. We don't need to do that. Now, orange bezel. I'm not actually digging this color combo. Maybe the other ones look better. It's just looking really plain to me. You get your standard time here on this inner ring. I kind of like that, actually. I like seeing the hours here in the middle. Yema is allergic to taking a straight-on picture of their watches. They're always at these weird angles. So I could not find a straight-on picture. At 12.2, it is thinner than average. It's about 1.5 millimeters thinner than the average for the 300-meter water resistance rating. To a score of 82. In 37th place is the Delma Shell Star Titanium. Price of $1,890. Size of 41 millimeters, 500 meters water resistance rating. Oh, I love how these Delmas look with the orange indexes here. I really like these shell stars. They look so good. This thing is titanium, and look at how nicely it's finished. Yeah, this one is a contender for the final top 10. I'm just letting you know that. I won't tell you the result, but yeah, it's a contender. It's got the full loom bezel. The loom just looks excellent on this watch. And 500 meters water resistance rating, that's all you need. 13.6, so it's well under the average thickness. You know, it's 1 millimeter thinner than average. It's like the average thickness of a 300, but you get the 500 meter depth rating. That's what I love to see. And those really seem to kind of bubble up to the top when you're trying to find what's the best. This works out to be a really great depth rating. And then when you have kind of this average thickness, that's really nice. 41 millimeters, so it's not too crazy big. I like the style on it. It's got a style of its own. It's not copying anybody, but it is reminiscent of other watchmakers, but I think Delma's doing their own thing. I like this crown logo that they have. It's really nice. It's got a textured dial. The orange and the blue look really nice. Here's my Broncos watch. There's always a Broncos watch in every video. People just love mixing the blue and the orange. So you see a lot of watches that are Broncos watches. But I love that you get all the little minute markings, that it's fully loomed. Crown guards look sweet. I think I'm repeating myself. Very cool watch. Score of 81. In 38th place is the Ocean 7 LM7. Price of $1,499. 51 meters across. And water resistance of 1250. Beautiful loom shot. This is for a different bezel. They give you another bezel with this, I believe, or at least they used to, and you can change them out. So yeah, the bezel that's shown on here is not the full loom bezel, but they give you one with it. And it's an homage to the Ploprof. I think it costs too much. Yeah, isn't the Ploprof $15,000? So I didn't invent this. I forget who did. But to use a 1/20th ratio is kind of a logic check on whether you should do an homage of something. So 15,000 divided by 20 is 750. So by that logic, the 1/20 ratio, $750 is the most you should ever spend for a Ploprof homage. So this exceeds that. I mean, this is 1/10 of the Ploprof. That's too much. I don't know if their plongeur here actually serves as a bezel lock. That'd be something to look into. The Steel Dive Ploprof homage, that's the one you want to get. It's in the affordable category. It has a plunger that is actually a bezel lock. That's what you want. If you're going to get an homage, I would go with the Steel Dive. You don't need this Ocean 7 thing. Is my opinion. I mean, maybe there's other redeeming things about it. It's not a chronometer. 16.5. Yeah, thicker than average. So for the 1200 meter water resistance rating, there's actually 6 watches. and that average thickness is 15. So 16.5, yeah, it's thicker than it needs to be. It's thicker than the average. I think they're charging too much for this. Total score of 81. In 39th place is the Epos 3441 Diver. Price of $1,512, size of 43 millimeters, and 500 meters water resistance. The most distinctive thing about this watch is the crazy full date here in between the 9 and the 12. It almost looks like it takes up a quarter of the dial, but technically it's just a seventh of the dial because you've got 7 days. That is really cool. You can get this one without the day there, but I think if you're going to go for the Epos, get the one with the crazy looking day here. You miss out on the 10 and 11 marks on your watch. So that has taken up a lot of real estate, but that is a unique look. I really like how the orange looks with the black here. These really big Arabic numerals are looking good to me. Really thick bezel with just big numbers, kind of like the Rolex style. I think it looks really good. It's a shiny ceramic for that bezel. There's some texture on the dial that looks really nice. Lume pattern is okay on this. It's nothing too crazy. Just standard dive lume. Although you are missing the 10 and the 11. They did put a little bit of lume on the other side of that date wheel. That's nice. Maybe they could have done a little bit of lume here and here too. Maybe there could have been room here. At 14.5 millimeters thick, it is exactly average thickness for this depth rating. Score of 81. In 40th place is the Laco Atlantic 39. Price of $1,007. Size of 39 millimeters and 300 meters water resistance. That's a size a lot of people are going to like. They have 3 versions of this in different colors. I think there's orange and green are the other 2. And they have different names here. But yeah, this is the blue one. And you get blue lume on that hand, minute hand, and then green lume on the hour hand. And then there's blue on the bezel. That looks really nice. I definitely like what they did with the lume here. Looks really cool. And yeah, they're not going to be the same brightness. Like the blue stuff is not going to be as bright. I think it's okay. If you charge it up before you go diving, I think it's probably going to last the length of your dive. It's going to be fine. It's not going to win any world records for lume, from what I can tell. It just seems like it wouldn't, but looks totally decent. Score of 81. In 41st place is the Benares Mako. Price of $999, 43 millimeters across, and 1,000 meters water resistance. This is a bronze watch. You get minute markings up to the 20. Really cool shark tooth indices on here. Really cartoony looking dial. I've mentioned I like that cartoony dive watch style. You know, that's not the only one I would want in my collection, but I think it's cool to have one that really exemplifies the cartoony style. This is a cool one. No question. It is a little bit expensive for a micro brand. In this price range, people are kind of expecting more brand recognition. Benares is not a watch brand I think a ton of people are familiar with. Clearly they make awesome watches, high quality watches, but yeah, I don't think it's a brand people are familiar with. Beautiful lume. They went to town on this lume. It's really nice. This is a nice color here too. Yeah, it's robin's egg blue. Color match date wheel here in between the indices so you don't break up the pattern. I love that. The 17 millimeter thickness is 1.3 millimeters thicker than average for this depth rating. It's only a 43, but I think it will be heavy. Bronze or brass is heavier than steel. You'll feel it. Score of 81. In 42nd place is the Tissot Sea-Star 2000 Professional. Price of $1,175, 46 millimeters in diameter, and 600 meters, 2,000 feet, water resistance. The lume looks okay. Man, they took some kind of artsy-fartsy shot here. Is that water in the picture? Crazy. But we can still see what's on there. Standard dive lume. Crazy T counterbalance on the second. 1853, they let you know. The wave pattern is not offensive to me. It looks fine. Looks good, actually. Yeah, interesting watch. It looks like big. It's got a thick bezel, but the dial looks pretty big too. I don't know what all they're doing. Everything looks big on this thing. Is it just like, did I just make the picture bigger than the other ones? No, everything looks thicker than on other watches. Especially I compare it to this Longines here. We've got the slimmer bezel, the slimmer hands. Everything's a little slimmer. You go to this Tissot and it's like, I'm a big boy. But they did the Chinese good luck date here. There's a lot of text on this dial. C star looks pretty cool. It's very stylized letters here for that C star. This thing is thicker than average. The average for 600 meters is 15.0, so this is 1.3 millimeters thicker than average. Total score of 81. In 43rd place is the Marathon Jumbo Day Date, JDD. Price of $2,100, size of 46 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. 18 thick. That is a thick watch. The average for 300 meters is 13.7. So this is 4.3 millimeters thicker than average. That is a thick one. You get military time out here and then standard time in the middle. I actually like that. I prefer that. A lot of times they cram the military time inside the standard. I think it looks better the other way around, so I like that they did that. You get tritium lume on this, which Marathon does a lot. They don't exclusively do tritium. They have some traditional lume watches as well, but they like the tritium. You get double tubes for the 12, but it looks like a T25. I don't think this is a T100 rating of tritium, so, you know, that's sort of like the total brightness. Those are your options. So T25 is the weaker of the two. Some actually say that's better because for tactical reasons, like you can still read the time on the T25. It's not as impressive, but at the same time, it's not emitting as much light. You don't necessarily need some super bright light on your wrist. You're sneaking around in the dark, doing squirrely things in the dark. Yeah, you don't necessarily want to announce your presence with this huge bright light on your wrist. If you can read the time, that should be good enough, and that's the rationale behind the T25. Maybe they just say that because they cheaped out. They're just trying to rationalize it. I think the white looks really nice. The polar dial looks cool. Sweet crown, like I said before on the other Marathon. Yeah, nice that you get the day complication. That looks good. Score of 81. In 44th place is the Longines Hydro Conquest. Price of $1,775, 41 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. Lume looks totally decent. It's a little bit better than average because you get the Arabics loomed as well. A lot of times you just get the markings loomed. So that's nice. Kind of weird looking hands to me, but they're fine. This one's not a chronometer, and you're paying almost $2,000. So if I'm paying almost $2,000, I think I'm going to try to get a chronometer. If I was going to buy one in this price range, I would go for the chronometer, not the one that's not a chronometer. It is 11.9 millimeters thick, which is quite thin. Yeah, it's almost 2 millimeters thinner than the average being 13.7. Total score of 81. In 45th place is the Fairer Endeavor. Price of $1,190, 41 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. Is this our first internal rotating bezel? I think it is in this video. Full lume on this thing. That is looking really, really good. And then on the bezel, it looks like you don't get any minute markings at all, but you get numerals like in 5-minute increments up to the 20, and then you start skipping them every other one. That's fine. The downside to an internal rotating bezel is you have two choices. You can do screw down crowns, or you can do a crown that rotates the bezel that doesn't screw down, and it's safe to operate under the water. And there's a downside either way, because if you have the one that doesn't screw down, then something can bump into that little crown and change the timing. Alternatively, if you have the screw down, then you can't fiddle with it underwater, because if you open it up, it's going to let water in. There's no perfect scenario here with the internal rotating bezel. I love a full lume dial because it gives you the opportunity to have black hands, and these look so good. That looks really good. I love black hands on a white dial. That is looking really good. It's a titanium case. That's really nice. Yeah, a lot of good things about this. Score of 81. In 46th place is the Alpina Sea Strong Diver Geyer. Price of $1,695, size of 36 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. The list of 36 millimeter dive watches is very short. Not very many of these, so this is one of the ones on the list. It's a plastic watch. They say fiber reinforced polymer, but it's really not all that different from just regular plastic. I don't think it's anything to get excited about. This one is thin, 11.75 millimeters thickness. It's fully 2 millimeters thinner than average for this depth rating, so that's good. The lume looks good. It is like black lume on this bezel, so that's going to fade pretty darn quickly. And there's no second lume. You do get a date here. Cool looking dial. Total score of 81. In 47th place is the Dubari Deep Ocean. Price of $1,400. Size of 42 millimeters and 300 meters water resistance. And what's going on over here? What the heck is that thing? Oh, that's for the internal rotating bezel. So this has an internal rotating bezel. I couldn't find a loom shot for this, so from the description, I just kind of prepared one here. Yeah, it's looking kind of weird. I don't care for this open heart thing. They have an actual diver on the watch. I've never seen that before. Interesting. Different color crown guards. Weird looking strap attachment mechanism here. I wonder how that actually works. Yeah, some weird stuff about this watch, for sure. Total score of 81. In 48th place is the Seiko Zimbe SPB 109J. Price of $1,684. 44 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. This isn't their most famous design, but it is looking good. You've got a recessed crown here, so the case kind of protects it from blows. It's not crown guards, but it's still a protected crown, so that looks good. The hands look good, with this huge arrow and then just a normal minute hand. Loomed counterbalance on the second. Yeah, the loom in general is just kind of your standard dive loom. Nothing too fancy, but it'll get the job done. The bracelet apparently does have an extension on it. This might be a step up in the bracelet department. Some Seikos don't have the greatest bracelets. This one might be better than average. Definitely look at a review on the Seiko Zimbe if you're interested. It's looking good though. I like this color too, this green. Score of 80. In 49th place is the Glycine Combat Sub GL0280. Price of $1,622. 46 millimeter size and 300 meters water resistance. And something to note about the Glycine Combat is that it is exceptionally thin. In the thinnest watches of all, over the 633 watches I look at over this video series, the Glycine rates 10th thinnest. So yeah, the 10.2 millimeters thickness is quite thin. And that's something people always say about the Glycine Combat, is that it's an exceptionally thin dive watch. So that's one of the cool things you get with this. You get military time, you get standard time. Loom is looking really weak, I'll be honest. Not the best loom pattern. So that's unfortunate. They did kind of a Rolex hand here, but without the Mercedes. And so that makes me happy. If you're going to do the Rolex handset, take that Mercedes off. So that's what they did. They have a crown thing similar to the Delma. I don't know who did it first. Who did it first, Glycine or Delma? That'd be interesting to find out. I like this mix of colors. You've got the black PVD and then the gold. I've mentioned in one of the prior videos that we don't see enough gold on the watches, so I like to see some gold here. That's looking good. Total score of 80. And in 50th place is another Benares, the Benares Megalodon. Price of $1,199. 47 millimeters across, 2,500 meters water resistance. Very deep. The bezel looks really easy to turn. That looks nice. Great loom on this thing. Like the other one, it's just loomed very well. Very strong application of loom. Interesting lugs on this thing. It's just kind of like a big rectangle for the case, except for a bezel slapped on top. Very neat looking case. The bracelet apparently has an extension on it. It's titanium. One presumes that the bracelet is also titanium. That's something to look into. That's very cool. That's going to feel really good on a 47 millimeter watch. You're going to want the titanium. It's going to make it feel a ton better. And a titanium bracelet feels so good on the skin. I just love that feeling. So much better than the steel. Yeah, there's something about the metal where it's just more hypoallergenic. It feels nice on the skin. The 17.7 millimeter thickness. This is a 2,500 meter depth rating. This is the only one, but we can go down to the 2,000 meter depth rating, and that average is 18.5. So 17.7 is a little bit thinner than the average for the 2,000 meter depth rating. Yeah, these averages are a little bit less precise when you have these small sample sizes. So the point in me mentioning the average is just to show you this is like, it's nothing crazy. Like, this is basically the thickness for this water depth rating. You're just going to get a thick watch if you have a depth rating that deep. The bracelet does apparently have an extension, so that's really nice. Total score of 80. In 51st place is the Titoni Seascoper 300. $1,850, 42 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. 42 and 300 meters, pretty standard dive watch right here. It actually is a chronometer. I really like this logo, this 5-pointed like flower sort of thing. It's looking really classy. There's no numerals on the bezel. I'd like to see some numerals. But you know, it's got kind of a minimalist look. Partially skeletonized hands here. Interesting hand shape. I like that. The orange looks really nice. You get some other color options too. You can see the pip, but it is the palest little loom you've ever seen. It's like gray, and I doubt that lasts very long, so that's going to be disappointing for sure. The size of it, though, it's about 1 millimeter thinner than average for the 300 millimeter wide water resistance, the 12.6. That's really good. Seems okay, but there's a lot of other options too. Score of 80. In 52nd place is the Acrone C2 Legacy Decompression. Price of $1,277, 48 millimeters across and 300 meters. Man, it doesn't look like a 48. This must have a wide bracelet here. It just looks like a normal dive watch, like a 42, a 40 or something. But yeah, it's a 48 apparently. Yeah, why is the date so far out? Well, it's a huge bezel. Look at how thick the bezel is. That's nuts. It is a multifunction bezel. You do get your minutes here. You get minute numerals even, 5, 10, 15. Very hard to see that though. This is not good. They need to have some kind of paint here so you can actually read these minutes. And there's no loom on the bezel, so that triangle, that's gonna be hard to see. The decompression times here, they kind of tell you like how much you have to wait at different spots, and 21 meters, 24 meters. Obviously research how you use this darn thing. I think it's more useful on the bezel than when they put it on the dial, so that's good. 14.4 is thicker than average too. The average is 13.7 for the 300 meter water resistance. So it's more than half a millimeter thicker than average. I don't know, you could say it's around average, just a little bit thicker. You do get a date, and the loom that they give you is all right. Is there second loom? I think there's this tiny little sliver of loom on the end of the second. Or maybe that's just reflecting. I said there was no second loom. If there is second loom, that adds 3 points. And you get the full minute marks. You could make the argument that it shouldn't get points for this bezel stuff because it's so hard to see it. So it may just come out in the wash. I think the score of 80 is still probably okay. Even if is second loom. Look at how tiny that is though. I don't know how long that's going to last. Loom is an issue on this watch for sure. It's substandard. Standard is to get at least something on the bezel. So yeah, that's definitely substandard. Total score of 80. In 53rd place is the Tag Heuer Aqua Racer Professional 200 Solarograph. It's $2,150, size of 34 millimeters, 200 meters water resistance. This is the only 34 millimeter watch in this video. It's kind of looking like a lady's watch. This bracelet is going to be really tiny. It looks tiny already on this thing, and it's only a 34. So yeah, it's a really narrow bracelet. Looks like the second is fully loomed. That looks really nice. There is no loom on the bezel though, and they definitely missed an opportunity. They could have put loom here in the triangle and the 10, the 20, even on these things. They could and should have put loom on there. It says Tag Heuer, and I think, people expect a little bit more from that. This is like the budget Tag Heuer. It's not living up. I think even though it is a budget Tag Heuer, it's a solar quartz. They could have put the loom on there. So that's a missed opportunity. At 10.6, it is one of the thinnest watches. It's not in the top 10 thinnest or anything, but it is a very thin watch. You're going to be very pleased with the thickness if you get this watch. It's going to feel pretty nice. And you do have that solar quartz. Solar quartz is really great. I don't know if we're going to see any solar quartz in the luxury tier. This may be the last one we see. I really like solar quartz because it marries advantages of both automatics and quartz. Increased accuracy and shock resistance of quartz, and then not having to worry about changing batteries with the solar part of this. Yes, you're going to have to change something you're going to have to get something serviced every 10 years or something like that, but it's a longer interval than the typical quartz watch, so that's nice. Solar quartz is definitely nice. Yeah, it's a cool watch. I didn't know about it, but it's got a lot of downsides. There's no knurling on this bezel, but that's not a huge deal. I'm sure you could turn it just fine. Yeah, the big deal is just that there's no loom on that bezel. That's disappointing. The bracelet does apparently have an extension on it, so that's nice. They also make a silver version. Total score of 80. In 54th place is the C Pro Abyss. $1,195, 44 millimeters across, and 2,000 meters water resistance. I think they're charging way too much for this thing. To me, it looks like a $200 dive watch. You know, with this aluminum bezel, it's not looking so great. It's not refined whatsoever. Look at these hands. The hands don't look good. It looks cheap. The whole thing looks cheap and generic. Generic and cheap. Yeah, I think they're charging too much for this thing. Just because it's 2,000 doesn't mean it's worth it. 18 millimeters thick is crazy. Why is it so thick? The average thickness for 2,000 meter dive watch is 18.5. So it's totally near the average. Nothing too crazy, apparently. I would look for something else. This one is just not that exciting to me. But it is a capable dive watch. I still say it has a good grade. It still gets a B-. It's still passing the class and getting a smile from the teacher, pretty much. Regular old quartz here. Nothing fancy about the quartz. It does have anti-magnetism technology in there. So, okay, that is nice. That is nice. Because quartz movements can get messed up by magnets, too. Total score of 80. In 55th place is the Archimede Sporttauscher. There's some way to say this, like German would say it. I can't do it. I practiced it and then now I forgot. So yeah, I can't do it. I'm not going to try. Price of $1,291, 42 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. The bronze is looking really good. I like the brown color on that bronze bezel. Then you have the red, full red second hand, which unfortunately means there's no lume on that second hand. That's a downside. One of the reasons why it's not a good grade. You know, there's no second lume. That's a big deal. 300 meters is plenty of water resistance. These crown guards look really nice here. I like a 4 o'clock crown. That's comfortable. The lume pip is really bright, so that's good. I like that there's different colors of lume. I have a lot of praises for this one. 12 millimeters thick is almost 2 millimeters thinner than average, the average being 13.7 for the 300 meter water resistance. Yeah, this is looking good. Score 79. In 56th place is the Aurang Sous-Marine. Price of $1,886, 38 millimeters across, and 200 meters water resistance. 38! For those of you who like a smaller dive watch, look at this one. Definitely look at this one. The style of it is so cool, in my opinion. This is a really cool looking watch. The minute hand has this arrow on it. That's kind of cool. Huge lume pip. Look at how big that is. And you get dots on everything. The minute marks are a little bit interrupted by these numerals, but that's okay with me. I just like that it's got it on there. This is a definitely functional tool watch right here. Huge little circle on that second hand. Gigantic circle. That's really nice. Beautiful green color here. A blue-green color. They make a black, a blue, and a green. I think this is the green one. I think there's a darker blue one, like a navy blue maybe. Very thin, 10.5. It's super thin. Like, that's just a thin watch in general, but for a dive watch, it's especially thin. That's really nice. Yeah, I really like the style of this. I like the lowercase a here. It's just a little bit charming. Huge numerals. You can see across the room what time it is. I think the Fotina actually looks really good on this one. I love a date window that has red numerals. I find that charming. It would have been nice if they bordered the date window here, but at least they have beveled cuts in. They do lume the area on the side of the date wheel. It actually has design continuity with the rest of the watch. They do that on all of them, this little tiny plot. So there's nothing just out of place for the date. They managed to integrate that in. I think that looks really cool. And then you've got kind of these exclamation point markings. It just looks really nice. They did a great job. Fume pattern on the dial here. Skin diver case shape. It's definitely one to look at. It is kind of crazy with the price, never mind. They're really trying to convince us that it's worth that much money. I don't know anything about this brand, if there's any sort of history to it or anything, so I would look into that. Score 79. In 57th place is the Hamilton Khaki Navy Below Zero. $1,945, 46 millimeters across, 1,000 meters water resistance. There was some movie that this was in, and I think they had a red one, like one with a red second hand and one with a blue second hand. You gotta do, like, they shouldn't have ever made one that had no color on it. I think that looks bad. Just have the red second hand. I think it's just the tip or something. Just a red tip. Yes, they missed an opportunity there. It's got this dark gray lume, which actually looks really good on the lume shot. I'm kind of impressed. I wonder how long it actually lasts. Because typically when you have pigments with the lume paint, they don't glow quite as long or as bright. But this is looking good. On the bezel, you only get lume to the 15 mark, so that's too bad. It'd be nice if they lumed these other circles. You know, it's sort of like a panorized submersible style. I really like these hexagonal screws, you know, on the corners of the watch. Very thick looking strap here. It's a big one, although it is titanium, so it's probably not going to feel too crazy. I really like wearing a big watch that's a titanium watch. It just feels good to have a big watch. So I like that. At 15.7 millimeters thick, it is exactly average for the 1,000 meter water resistance rating. That's the average. So if you get a 1,000 meter dive watch, you're going to get one that's like this thick. That's just what you get. It does even have a helium escape valve. So if you're a professional diver, you can use this one. I like that they have the 0 here instead of the 12. That always makes me happy to see that. It makes more sense. If we're just showing the numbers for the AM, it should be a 0, because 12 is part of PM, not AM. I like that. Total score 79. In 58th place is the Nautic Fish Zweifwarz. I don't know if you say the W's like German or not. So I apologize if my pronunciation is horrible. Price of $1,791, 43 millimeters across, water resistance of 1,000. They give you the 0 with the 5. That's great for symmetry. If you're going to have 2 digits on all the other ones, maybe as well put 2 digits here. You get the minute markings up to the 15. I don't like what's in the center here. It looks like a chalkboard where somebody wrote on it with chalk and erased it poorly. It looks really bad here. I don't know what I'm seeing, but it doesn't look good. I couldn't find a lume shot. Per description, there's a lume pip, but that's all you get on the bezel. And then on the dial, no lume on the second. So a little bit substandard lume. Here's what that would look like for your imagination. 15 millimeters thick. It's a little bit thinner than the average for the 1000. Almost a millimeter thinner than average. Leather strap, you might want to change that out if you don't want to ruin the leather. Total score 79. In 59th place is the Orient Star M42 1964. It is $1,590, 41 millimeters across, and 200 meters water resistance. These Orient Stars are a step up from just a regular Orient. It's sort of similar to a Grand Seiko, but not really. Orient Star is not like Grand Seiko level by any means. But I'm just saying, like, in the Seiko brand, you've got like the premium brand. Orient Star is Orient's premium. You get a power reserve. That is really cool. I think it goes up to 50 hours, the movement. So that is sweet. That is a really awesome complication to have on a dive watch, because it's just great to know that it's topped up. I really like the color here. They have some other good colors. I actually think there's more than just the blue and the black. I think there's some other colors. I just didn't actually get them on the scorecard. Sorry about that. The bracelet has an extension, so that's really nice. It's a little bit thicker than average. The average is 13.3 for 200 meters water resistance. So this is 1.2 millimeters thicker than average. Maybe because the power reserve. I'm sure that adds thickness to the watch. It's another thing on the dial. Yeah, you see the apostrophe here in the divers. That means this is ISO certified. So you get some anti-magnetism with the movement. So that's nice. Total score 79. In 60th place is the Father's Diver Horizon. Price of $1,310. Size of 40 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. Yep. Crowd-pleasing size there with the 40 millimeters. 11.9 millimeters thick is 1.5 millimeters thinner than average. So that's good. I think it's going to wear very nicely. It's got some longer lugs on it, but it's only a 40 millimeters, so it's probably going to work for everybody. There's some weird thing with the bezel here, where there's a paler section between the 5 and the 15, and then between like the 37 and the 43. I don't know what's going on there. That's super weird. Also, these counterbalances look bizarre on these hands. You've got some strange things going on here. I mean, it looks cool. The logo is these little brackets nestled into each other, and so I guess the hands are kind of continuing these, these right angles and these little sticks, right angle sticks things. They found their own design here. 6 o'clock date. Loom on the underside of that date window, so that's nice. You get your full loom. That whole second hand is loomed. The bezel is loomed all the way around. That's really nice. It kind of looks like a multifunction bezel. We've got this 2 sections of the bezel. There's a steel and a ceramic. But it's not a multifunction. It's just, you just get your numerals and then your loom pips. I like it. I think it's pretty good. I would obviously prefer if all the minute marks were shown. That's my preference, as y'all know. But this looks okay. It's like a decent choice. It's not a chronometer, but it's only, I mean, it's $1,300. I forget what the cheapest chronometer is, but yeah, you don't usually see them at $1,300. Total score of 79. In 61st place is the Sacred Crafts Grande Mare. Price of $1,999, 44 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. So yeah, you've got a bronze case here. The elephant in the room here is these pieces of glass in your bracelet. So some of the links of this bracelet are made of actual glass, like sea glass. I don't think that's... Oh, and the crown guards. The crown guards are made with glass. The glass is going to protect the crown. So I don't know how long that's going to last. It definitely looks like you made it from stuff that washed up on the beach. So if you're into that sort of aesthetic, this is a good one for you. I really think it looks cool, but the price is crazy. I think this was a weird picture because the colors are looking very strange. This is looking kind of rosy. This bronze, I don't think that's quite right. The dial is not... Like the colors here are not really jiving with each other. Not my preference. 13 millimeters thick is almost a millimeter thinner than the average for 300 meters water resistance, so that's nice. Yeah, I mean, if you've got an extra $2,000 and you want to get a watch that looks like your kid made it just from finding stuff on the ground, I guess you could go with this one. No, it is cool. It is unique. Very cool. Score 79. In 62nd place is the Unimatic X Revolution U1S-REV. Oh, this is so cool. I saw an interview with the guy who designed this, and he really likes blue jeans, so this is kind of like a blue jean style here with the case. You can see it's a weathered PVD, so it's kind of, they threw that case in a rock tumbler or something, just made it look more weathered. They'll probably all look a little bit unique. But I really like the style here. I mean, yeah, this is a stylish watch. I really like the Unimatic's, and I'm sorry, I removed the background, so I didn't do a perfect job here. You can see little pieces of white and stuff. I was trying to make it look really good, but maybe I failed. It comes on a nylon strap. That's nice. It might look good on an actual, like, denim strap. That would be cool. They should have tried to source one of those. You get black lume here, which looks blue in the dark. That is really cool. I love these skeletonized indexes that the lume pattern is just the outline. Oh, that looks so good. They have the horizontal line at the 6. I really like that too. Very stylish looking watch. I really like the Unimatics. This one you actually get all the markings on the bezel, so that's cool. It's more functional than the ones where they just have the pip. Sometimes it's just blank on the whole bezel except for one pip with these Unimatics. This one you actually get all the markings. That's nice. Yeah, very cool. I could go for this one. There's no date on it though. It's one downside. But other than that, very stylish looking watch. It has a score of 78. In 63rd place is the Glycine Combat Sub GL0323. Price of $1,445, size of 42 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. Yeah, that other Combat Sub we saw was bigger. 42 is a better size in my opinion. Still very thin. 10th thinnest dive watch. So that's very nice. These look really nice, and the thing is, you can find them cheaper than this. They sell them gray market sometimes, so I would definitely try to find... If you want the Glycine Combat Sub, make sure to look around and try to find a cheaper price. That's my recommendation. There is a risk with gray market, so the risk being that I think sometimes your warranty is shortened, or you don't even get the warranty at all, which can be a big deal. So make that choice carefully. Don't just listen to me. I'm just making you aware of what an option that's out there is that these glycines, you can get them gray market, that sort of thing. One benefit of buying a new watch from the actual authorized dealer is that you do get that warranty. You can return it to them for their service, but that does cost more money. Everyone has to make that decision for themselves. But the watch itself is looking really nice. The blue and the bronze are going together very nicely. I like the red text here that says automatic. Just a little bit of a different color is really nice. And then this gold printing on the dial looks really good. Style-wise, this is really, really good. Lume is disappointing though. If this lume shot is accurate, it looks like the hands are significantly brighter than the indexes. And for some reason on the hour hand, they didn't put any lume on the point, only on the circle. And that does look pretty weird, actually. I think they should have put some lume on the point as well. As I said, it'd be nice if there's a little bit of lume here next to that date wheel. That is appreciated when watch companies do that. But yeah, minimal text here. Looks really nice. Total score of 78. In 84th place, the first bezel-less, non-rotating bezel watch that we've seen so far is the Gruppo Ardito Lince. Gruppo Ardito Lince. Price of $1,320. Size of 42 millimeters and 100 meters water resistance. 8 o'clock crown is a little bit unusual crown placement. You get your nice little crown guards here. I like the 5 bolts here. That looks cool. I love the black printing here on the indexes. That's looking really good. But they should have done it on the hands too. These silver hands, it's a pet peeve of mine when you have a yellow dial and silver hands. The hands should be black, people. They should not be silver. They should be black. That would look better. It would provide better contrast. Whether it looks better or not, that's subjective, of course. De gustibus ad infinitum. No, that's not how it goes. But you know what I mean. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. There's no accounting for taste. All these sayings that we have. 12 millimeters thickness is so thin for 1,000. That's crazy. 1,000 meters water resistance. The average is 15.7. So this is almost 4 millimeters thinner than the average. It looks like it'd be chunky, but apparently it's super thin. This might be, I think this is the highest scoring watch that doesn't have a rotating bezel, because you lose 14 whole points when you take off that rotating dive bezel. In my philosophy of a dive watch, the rotating dive bezel is one of the hallmarks of a dive watch. So you take that rotating dive bezel off, in my opinion, that loses, 1.5 letter grades. That's 14 points off. I think that bezel is a very important feature. And that jives with the other ones. All the other watches are getting 14 points for their bezel. If you took off like all the markings of the bezel and there's no lume on it and stuff, it would also be a minus 14. So that penalty, it's consistent with the ones that do have the rotating bezel. There's just so much stuff on the bezel that it all adds up to 14 points. But let's see here. Yeah, the lume is looking good on this. I think that's decent. I mean, it'd be nice if they had bigger lume markings here, but they wanted to put the numbers, so I think that's a good trade-off. You still get the lume markings and you get the numbers, and it's black against the yellow. I think that's better than having white. So I'm fine with this. I think the lume is good. Yeah, very cool option. Score of 78. In 65th place is the Helsinn Gauge turning bezel. Price of $1,699, 48 millimeters, and 2,000 meters water resistance. They advertise prominently on that dial. Very prominent power reserve right here at the 10 o'clock position. It's huge. No numbers on it to indicate like how many hours you have or anything, but you can see where it is. And in the dark, you can't tell, but you're going to be able to see exactly in the dark how much time you have as well, because that little black hand is going to go over this loomed little arc, and so you'll see how much power reserve there is. Very cool. Another prominent feature of this is that it's only got minutes. You don't get the hours, you don't get symbols, you just get the numerals for the minutes. That is very cool. I don't think I've seen another dive watch with that. It looks cool. I really like it. I think that's a good way to go. That lume pip appears to be ultra bright and ultra huge. I love that. I love that. It makes me really admire the pip, like the choice to just use a pip when that pip is so big and so bright. And you've got this little tiny pinprick of a pip and you can barely see it at all. I'm like, you guys are just cheaping out on us. Like, give us a good pip. That's a good one. Everybody copies that darn Panerai submersible, these little nail head things. Your medallions on the major markings and then little nail heads in between. But a lot of times they don't copy the fact that there's numerals. On the Panerai, you have a 15 here, a 30 here, a 45 there. They should have done that on the Helsinn. I think that would have been nice. Apparently this has a titanium case. The bezel must be some kind of PVD or something. This thing is extra thick though. 19.4 is fully a millimeter thicker than the average for the 2,000 meter water resistance rating. Cool watch. Total score 78. In 66th place is the Isotope Hydrium Pro NSFW. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Don't let anybody catch you looking at this. Price of $1,161. 40 millimeters across. 300 meters water resistance. The only color you get for this is purple. If you don't like purple, then you don't like this watch, because that's the only color they offer. All the numerals are loomed on this dual time bezel here. That's nice to see. And you get a bunch of hash marks for all the minutes. I like that. The second hand is loomed right there at the end. Nice bordered numerals here that are very crisp and easy to read. There's no date on this, unfortunately. Would have liked to see a date. Fun what they did with the orange and the purple. They continued it with the strap, the bezel, and the second hand. It's all going together. We're getting these two colors and they're putting them on everything. I love that continuity. It looks good. It's a very loud watch. So it's a very playful watch, which I think is appropriate for a dive watch. It's not going to work in all, situations necessarily. It's a little bit thicker than average, about a millimeter thicker than average, the 14.9. Cool watch. Score 78. In 67th place is the Sangen Instruments Hydra. Price $1,999. Size of 43 millimeters and 300 meters water resistance. This loom shot was manufactured by me. I removed background and stuff to create a facsimile so we could imagine what the loom looks like. Per the description, all this stuff is loomed. So that's what it would look like. Nice circular cutout for the date here in between the 4 and 5. Yeah, for one of these internal rotating bezels, this actually looks pretty good. I think from a tool perspective, I think this is going to be pretty darn useful. You get tons of crown guards here, every which way. PVD covered case, steel bracelet. I've mentioned I don't care for PVD bracelets. Sometimes they feel kind of icky. And there's no bracelet extension on this one either. So that's a downside. The clasp doesn't have an extension. Total score of 78. In 68th place is the Marin Instruments Skin Diver. Price of $1,150, 39 millimeters across, and 200 meters water resistance. They did something a little different here with this bezel. I don't think that's very useful. If you're timing the first 10 minutes, it's 4 minutes past, 5, 6, who knows? It's just going to be a guess. And it's just totally imprecise. So that's not my preference. Normally they're more precise in the countdown. You get all these markings. Here it's significantly less precise because we don't see the 5-minute mark even. So that's not for me. Cool style. They it's a stylish watch. And some people are more on the styly side. I'm usually more on the tooly side. I like the watch to be a good tool. So that irks me a little bit when I see this kind of stuff. But sometimes it can be so darn stylish that I'm on board too. This didn't quite make it there for me. They do have a black dial version as well. It is very thin, 11.5. That's quite thin. Almost 2 millimeters thinner than average for the depth rating of 200 meters. It's passing the class. It's getting a C+. Total score of 78. In 69th place is the Shinola Ceramic Monster. Price of $2,150. 43 millimeters across and 300 meters water resistance. Nice use of red here. Just tiny little red slivers on every hour index. Nice red accent second hand. It's got an interesting texture to the dial. Kind of like a mattress pattern or something. No printing on the bezel except for the pip. The loom index here, which is kind of a trapezoid sort of thing. Looks cool. Looks like you've got blue loom here and then green for the rest. Hard to tell from this loom shot. I can zoom in. Why don't I zoom in? We'll all appreciate that. There. Yeah, it looks like it's blue and green. Like I say, hard to say. I didn't turn the light all the way off. I mean, they don't turn the darn light off. It's hard to tell what the loom is like. But you do get... It's standard dive loom, technically. Get a nice negative date display here, meaning black background at the 4 o'clock. That's good. A little bit thicker than average. Total score 78. In 70th place is the N Square Ocean Speed N27.6. Price of $1,049, 43 millimeters and 300 meters water resistance. Cool dodecagonic bezel here. 12-sided. That's very cool. I think they're trying to market it to the ladies. At 43 millimeters, though, that is going to be a big watch. 14.5 millimeters thick. Maybe some ladies will go for that. I think seen plenty of dudes that are like, 43 is uncivilized. It's far too big for a man to wear. It's going to break my little hand. But then a tiny little dial on the middle here. Like, the bezel is just so thick. There's so much space between the dial and then the outside of the bezel. So that's kind of funny. Cool translucent dial here, so you can see the date wheel all the way around. It's not actually that distracting because it's dark enough. Sometimes when they show the date wheel through, it can be super distracting. I actually like this. I think it looks cool. There is no loom on the bezel. That is unfortunate. It has a helium escape valve. So if you're a professional diver, you want to show off to your other manly professional diver guys, show them this watch. They'll be impressed with the pink silicone and stuff. So yeah, you're all set with your helium escape valve. The watch though, it does kind of look like it's imitating Audemars Piguet a little bit. Royal Oak. Something a little different. Total score of 78. In 71st place is the Fair Aquamatic. Price of $1,050. Size of 38.5. 200 meters water resistance. Loom is looking really good on this. Not quite a full loom bezel. I've stipulated before I like to see minute marks before I'll call it a full loom bezel. Some kind of minute marks. It's okay if you just have the countdown. They don't really have the minute marks. They just have, it's alternating slashes and numerals every 5 minutes. There's no loom on the second. That hurts it here. No second loom. That's 3 points off. Otherwise, it'd have a good grade. The color is not for me. I would not go for this color combo, but they have some more muted color combinations. I think they might even have a full loom dial. Subtle wave pattern here that looks really nice. Day date is always appreciated. I like to see that. Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's a little bit much for me. There's just so much stuff going on. Again, with the borders of the hands and the indexes, it'd be nice if they matched a little closer, in my opinion. This one's pretty darn thin. 11.9 is about 1.5 millimeters thinner than the average for the 200 meter water resistance rating. Total score is 78. In 72nd place is the Zodiac Super Seawolf 68 Saturation. Price of $1,595. 44 millimeters across. 1,000 meters water resistance. I don't think this is the first one we've seen with this, but it's the first one I'm talking about it. It says valve unnecessary. So what that means is that this is designed as a saturation dive watch, meaning you're going in a chamber where you've got higher pressure than normal and you have a different breathing mix that has nitrogen in it and stuff like that. All these kind of crazy things, but helium can get in the watch on a normal watch and helium can get in here too, but it doesn't matter. You don't care because look at this ring around the crystal here. I think that screws down over the crystal, so the crystal cannot pop out. That crystal's going nowhere. It's staying in there. You don't need the darn valve. This is the ideal. With a helium escape valve, that's still a point that could fail and water could enter. This doesn't have the darn valve. You don't need the valve. They fasten that crystal on there so tight, it's not coming off. Very cool. You get a very funky looking watch though. There's others that have this valve unnecessary thing, which, like I said, that's really what you want over the helium escape valve if you're an actual professional doing the saturation thing. The negative display date looks really cool. Similar indexes to that Delma we saw earlier with the orange border. It looks really nice. I like the orange. I like seeing all that orange. It pleases me. The loom pip though, that's a weak spot. Clearly, that's not the highlight of the watch. It would have been nice to have more loom there. And then the bezel is it's looking a little weird. That slash so close to the 15 definitely looks strange. And it's kind of out of balance. I know they had to have this huge ring here. So the bezel is kind of looking like an afterthought. And it's looking really big. It's only 44. It's not crazy. But the way they designed this looks odd. I think this must be a 20 millimeter width on the bracelet. I don't remember offhand. 15.8 millimeters thick is just about the average for 1,000 meters. So it's just about average thickness. Total score 78. In 73rd place is the Christopher Ward C65 Aquitaine. Price of $1,410. Size of 41 millimeters. 200 meters water resistance. This is looking beautiful. Trapezoidal date cut out at 6 o'clock. Uninterrupted loom pattern here because you get the little bit of loom on the bottom of that date wheel. Cool dagger hour hand they have. Trident second hand. Minimalist bezel design that is aesthetically pleasing, I'll give it that, but I prefer the Thule having the minutes and stuff. It's a functional timing bezel, not down to the minute necessarily, but you can use the minute marks on the dial. It's just a little bit more clunky. The loom looks really nice. They loomed everything here on the bezel that you see, so that's really good. It's kind of this gold loom. Yeah, this is looking really stylish. Score 77. In 74th place is the Eza Sealander. Price of $1,050, 41 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. I could not find a loom shot, so here's what it looks like from the description. It says made in Germany. That's cool to see. The green one looks pretty cool. Black looks nice too. Very dark Fotina here. They really went nuts on that. Diamond-shaped pip on the bezel in that same Fotina. And a little bit thicker than average. Nothing too crazy. Total score of 77. In 75th place is the Andersman Bronze ANN 0931. Price of $1,888. Size of 44 millimeters. Huge loom pip here. That is looking great. Sandwich dial with these numerals cut out. The dial itself looks really cool. I like this tan brown. I like this where it says 1,000 meters, how it's a lighter color. Just style-wise, this thing is looking really good. It's looking really refined. I like the case shape. It's kind of looks a little bit more solid. Looks like a solid watch. Yeah, the yellow second hand is nice too. Great aesthetics on this thing. You are missing a date though, unfortunately. 16 is just a hair over the average for 1,000 meters depth rating. Got partially skeletonized hands. That's okay. I think they could have done just regular hands. That would have looked fine too. Something a little different, I guess. Yeah, it looks really cool. Nice option. Total score of 77. In 76th place is the Olek and Wash Ocean Graph, O&W. Price of $1,880. Size of 39.5 millimeters across and 1,000 meters water resistance rating. Loom is weak sauce. I would not like loom like this. The arrows are freaking me out too. You got an arrow pointing up and then arrows pointing in. Go this way, go that way, go this way. That's weird to me. I don't know why they did it that way. But this loom quadrant thing is not good. And then all you get at the bottom here is this tiny little piece underneath that date window. So they really skimped on the loom, unfortunately. I mean, that's one of the hallmarks of a dive watch, in my opinion, is really good loom. And so when you skimp out on the loom, I don't think it's a good dive watch when you do that. But I gave this one a C+. You're still passing the class. That's because the bezel here, what do we call this? Multi-feature. What's the multi-feature with it? Oh, here it is. Okay, look. You've got your minutes here. 5, 10, 15, 20. And you have your decompression scale. You know, your 21 meters, your 24 meters. What your different decompression stops are supposed to be. Yeah, that's cool. That's all right. It's scored appropriately. 15.8 millimeters. 15.8 is just about average for the 1,000 meter water resistance rating. Total score 77. In 77th place is the Doxa Sub 200. $990, 42 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. I've heard people say this is just a dive style watch. It's not really a dive watch. Well, it is a dive watch. It counts for sure. It's not Doxa's highest performing watch. I think this is their entry level. For me, if I'm going Doxa, I'm not getting this one personally. You know, you do you. If you just want a Doxa, they have one that's just a touch under 1,000. They've got all their standard Doxa colors: black, blue, silver, orange, pale blue, which we see here, yellow, and white. The loom is looking kind of weak. Unfortunately, I think Doxas don't have the brightest loom. I know they don't. I've looked at all these Doxas. They don't have the brightest loom. The date border is looking funky. Look, you've got this cutout, and it's got a border around it that's way bigger than the cutout, and it's not centered. There's a smaller amount here on the right than there is on the left. And then the date is not quite centered in the cutout. That's looking bad. I said crown guards, but this is really a recessed crown. It's a protected crown. You have some protection here, but it's recessed into the case. There's no sloping crown guards coming up on this. Beads of Rice bracelet. It apparently does have a bracelet extension. That is good. 13.8 is a little thicker than average for the 200 meter. 200 meter average is 13.3. So this is about half a millimeter thicker than average. Very minimal dial text. Very small little logo here. Total score 77. In 78th place is the Seiko 62 Moss SPB 147. $1,000, size of 40.5 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. This is the brown one. They have a silver one too. I'm sure they have some other colors. I'm sure you can look around and find them. Yeah, these are the ones that I saw on whatever website that was selling them. But, you know, maybe you can get different colors used and stuff. There were some super cool 62 Moss homages in that first video, the budget. So yeah, if you want the look but not the price, there are some really cool homages. I do like the gold and the brown and the black. It's working for me. Now, I don't know if it's going to go with your outfit, whatever outfit you have on. Sometimes watches work on their own, but do they work with your outfit? So, you know, these are things that serious men have to consider on a day-to-day basis. What is up here, though? It looks like there's loom here, but not on this shot. I'm not seeing that loom. On the other side of the date window. It looks like this particular loom shot does not have that. You know, I know the 62 Moss is like, there's a lot of different models that it could be, so maybe this one on screen does have the loom here. If this is the loom shot of the one on the screen, though, it doesn't. Usually they're not. I mean, the dirty little secret, it's not a secret because I've explained this. Most of these darn watches, it was really hard to find a loom shot. So I'd really have to search, find posts on Reddit or Instagram or whatever to find these darn loom shots. Sometimes I didn't bother and I just put like a generic from from the description what the loom pattern was. This is a 62 Moss loom shot that doesn't have the little loom here next to the date. Make of that what you will. Thickness is just about average, 13.2. Nothing crazy. That apostrophe in the divers means this is ISO certified, and therefore you do get some anti-magnetic technology in this. I don't know if that's a silicone hairspring or if it's a Faraday cage or what kind of technology they have. They have some sort of anti-magnetic technology that's above the basic. So that is very good. Love to see it. Total score of 76. In 79th place is the Nevada Grenchen Jellyfish Depth Master. Price of $1,135. Size of 39 millimeters and 1,000 meters water resistance. This is cool with the jellyfish, the pixelated Pac-Man. It's supposed to look like the Pac-Man ghost, sort of. You know, they have a purple, they have an orange, they have these different ones. I'm sure it's super limited edition. They gotta be sold out right this second. But it's a cool watch. The numerals look really neat. There's no loom on the bezel. That's gonna disappoint whoever buys this, I would think. It's not very precise. The precision here on the bezel is lacking. You know, with the way these numerals are, so stylized. You can tell this is 30 right here, but you turn this thing and which mark is 30. It's not very precise is the whole thing. This does have a helium escape valve. Interesting. It's only 13 millimeters thick. Wow, this is super thin. The average is 15.7. So this is almost 3 millimeters thinner than average for the 1,000 meter depth rating. That is nuts. I wonder how they do it. A lot of times they have like some kind of special technology that's involved. You know, like there's no removable case back or something. There's crazy things they can do to get the thickness down. But yeah, that's very cool. Pretty neat one. Score 76. In 80th place is the Doxa Argonautic Loomis. Price of $999, 43 millimeters in diameter, 300 meters water resistance. And you get tritium. You've got tritium tubes on... The second hand just has traditional loom. But the rest of the indexes and the hands have tritium. Looks like traditional loom on the bezel pip as well. Helium escape valve for you professionals out there going into the chamber. 300 meters and 13.8. That's totally average thickness. Which is cool with tritium because typically tritium adds thickness on there. So yeah, good offering. Doxa had that Submariner homage that I just thought, like, why are you doing this? I would go for this one. This one is good. It is still sort of like a Submariner homage, but it's not so bad. This is weird here with you have these flat end links. They just made the case like have a flat receiving area for the bracelet. Okay, why not? It does look a little bit weird though. Color matched date wheel, it appears. Very cool. Total score 76. In 81st place is the Aquastar Benthos H1. Price of $1,390. Size of 42 millimeters and 500 meters water resistance. Yes, this is what I'm talking about with the loom. You guys, that is great. Very funky, super funky retro style here. Got these big squares and then little dashes, just alternating kind of randomly. Just a ton of little square things to look at. And then these big fishing lure style chunky indices here at the 3, 6, and 9. Yeah, this thing is wild. It is a lot. I mean, if you really want to go all in on the retro thing, I think this is a good choice. Let's look at the specs a little bit. 2 o'clock crown, that's pretty cool. 500 meters water resistance. Okay, that's a nice rating. I think 500 is a great rating. 300 is actually really fine too, but 500 just seems like a nice compromise. You know, with the way the thicknesses and stuff work, I think this is the sweet spot. Because once you get past 500, the thickness penalties start overtaking the depth rating benefits. However, in this case, this is very thick. The average thickness for a 500 meter dive watch is 14.5, and this one is 17.2 millimeters thick. Getting close to 3 millimeters thicker than average. It's a very thick watch. I mean, oh, I think this is, I don't know what this one is. I showed you guys the 17 earlier on my wrist. It's not too crazy. You can do a 17. Don't let it scare you. 17 is fine. It depends what the case shape is like too. Like this one I'm wearing with just straight up sides, you know, that feels thicker than one that's kind of smoothed up on the sides. These cushion type of cases, I think they wear a little bit better. Total score 76. In 82nd place is the Doxa Argonautic Coral. Price of $1,300, size of 43 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. And I chose this, it's not quite Tiffany blue, but one of these pale blue ones. I just decided to show you that one. There's an orange as well. I think the orange is actually like a salmon. I think it's more like a coral color, actually, which is pretty cool. There's a helium escape valve here. Yeah, you get a steel bezel insert. Those do look pretty nice sometimes when they really fill them with paint here. That looks good. Again, the weird bracelet interface here is, I don't like that. The seam here is throwing me off. I don't care for that. It's about average thickness for this depth rating. Score 76. In 83rd place is the Aquastar Model 60. Price of $1,390, just like the other one. Size of 37 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. The exact same price as that other one. Skin diver case here. Yeah, I kind of do like when they have the hour hand and they just chop off the end. Just a flat end here. It does look kind of cool. The date window looks like an afterthought. It's just a hole in the dial. And all date windows are just a hole in the dial, but sometimes they give it a little more thought than this. This doesn't look great. I like the starfish logo. I love the text here, the Aquastar. That's looking good. 11 millimeters thick is super thin. The average for 200 is 13.3, so this is 2.3 millimeters thinner than average. So that last Aquastar was way thicker than average. This one is way thinner than average. Interesting. The bezel pip, at least in this photo, is looking weak sauce. I'm sure it's just they didn't charge it up and turn off the darn lights. That's really all you gotta do. Well, okay. I mean, the camera on my phone is actually really good at dark shots, so I think that skews my perspective on how easy it is to take a loom shot. So yeah, maybe it's not so easy to take a loom shot. Clearly, a lot of people are not doing a great job at it. The loom might be really good on this. It might not. I would watch a review to know for certain. If this is interesting to you, you want to learn more, check out a review. Total score 76. In 84th place is the Venezianico Neri de Carbonio. Price of $1,050. Size of 42. Water resistance of 200 meters. I keep doing that thinking people would love me making weird sounds, but I could be totally off. I think it's funny to say things in a weird way, but other people may not. Yeah, this has a really cool bezel insert. We've seen these kind of bezel inserts before. I don't know how they do it, but it looks really nice. Sort of like a bowling ball style. They only loomed the little triangle at the top. That's okay. I mean, that's the standard dive loom. So no big deal. Of course, it's better to be above average, not just be average. But yeah, this has standard dive loom. Looks a little bit thin, so I doubt it lasts all that long. And the second hand appears to be right here. Here's the second hand. You can see it right there next to the hour. It's a tiny little sliver. That's not going to last very long either. You get a forged carbon case. I apologize, I've said it in this video. There's so many of these darn videos. Forged carbon is really sweet. It's very light, very strong. Cool case material. Like it. And 13.2 millimeters is just about average for the 200 meter water resistance. Nothing to get excited about. It's just about average. Total score 76. In 85th place is the Squale Matic. Price of $1,413. Size of 44 millimeters. 600 meters water resistance. I love an orange hand. I like black and orange a lot. I've noticed, I've learned that about myself through this video. It's like, I really like how that looks. It's doing it for me. Cool loom pattern. You got these kind of long things here at the 6, 9, and 12. It's a little bit interesting. Only a triangle on the bezel. And what the heck? I don't know why they did this. This is super weird. But yeah, you've got minute markings everywhere except for this part of the bezel. It just looks bizarre. Why would you do that? Just to be different or something? I don't know why they did this. It doesn't make any darn sense. The average thickness for 600 meters is 15 even. So 16 even is 1 millimeter thicker than the average. It seems like a perfectly fine watch. I really like Squale. Their style is nice. They seem to make really quality watches, and it resonates with me. Score 75. In 86th place is the Eza Vintage 1972. Priced $1,080. Size of 39.6 millimeters. Water resistance of 200 meters. The 0.6, we're really getting precise here with the measurement here across. It's a little bit silly. This is bizarre. There's no loom. Yeah, loomed hands only. Man, there's not many dive watches that only have loomed hands and nothing else on the dial. It's got this kind of white loom, which is also a little bit unusual. I mean, throughout this video, I've seen a ton of white loom, so clearly it's something that's out there. At least on the loom shots I'm getting, it just appears straight up white. It doesn't appear blue or green, it appears white. You've got nice loom on the bezel, that's looking pretty good. Not what I consider to be a full loom bezel. For it to be a full loom bezel for me, I have to see some kind of minutes loomed. I'm not seeing that on this. 11.95. We're getting precise with these measurements. 12 millimeters thick is a millimeter thinner than average for the 200 meter water resistance rating. But yeah, very cool indexes here. Got these red lines and then these, like, again, I keep calling them fishing lures. These just metal things attached to the dial. Retro look for sure. Score 75. In 87th place is the Era Instruments D1. Price of $1,400. 44 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. There's no date on this thing, so enthusiasts may like that. I think it should have a date. I say it has second loom. I hope it does, because this loom shot is ambiguous. Oh, no, it's not. Here, I'll zoom in. All right, I'll zoom in for you. Yes, the loom has the second hand has loom, because look, the pattern here, it's these tiny little things. You can see that's connected here. So there is loom on that second hand, just on the end of it, on the blue part. White loom on the logo. The full loom bezel is much appreciated. I like that. Total score 75. In 88th place is the Zeno watch Base Divers 6603. Price of $1,150. Size of 48 millimeters and 500 meters water resistance. You can tell this is a thick watch, 18, and it's 48. Man, this is going to be a heavy, heavy watch. Yeah, that's way thicker than the average for 500. The average for 500 meters is 14.5. So 18 is fully 3.5 millimeters thicker than average. This is one of the chunky ones for sure. Loom is looking weak. Really weak on these indexes. Just a tiny little circle here on the bezel that's loomed. I thought this was going to be a good performer on the loom department because it's got these huge indexes, but it looks like they didn't put that much on there or didn't take a good shot. Total score 75. In 89th place is the Nevada Antarctic. Price of $995. Size of 38 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. Man, some of these brands are just like competing for the most funky looking retro watch possible. This is a lot of funkiness. If you want a funky retro watch, take a look at this one. Cyclops is like 10 times magnification? What is going on here? That's crazy. Like, the date is just enormous. That is nuts. Look on the loom shot too. It's just huge. It's crazy magnification they got going on there. Looks like it's stronger magnification than I'm used to seeing on a Cyclops. Mix of loom colors, yellow and green. It's probably just because of the Fotina here, actually. Strong Fotina, just, it's making quite an impression. Just about average thickness, nothing crazy. 12.9 is about average for the 200 meter. Total score 75. In 90th place is the Isotope Hydrium X, price of 1,161 bucks, size of 40 millimeters, and water resistance of 300 meters. Beautiful full loom dial here. Oh, that is awesome. These hydriums they're supposed to kind of look like I went out to lunch and I'll be back at 2 o'clock or whatever. You know, these little signs you put up on your business. It looks so cool. It's really fresh. There's something really pure about the design of it. I love these just simple numbers, like a school clock. I mentioned that I like that. It's just basic clock. I love to see that. And then the hands are really unique. I like that. Yeah, they've got some other cool colorways with this. They're pretty much limited editions, I believe. But yeah, the loom is great. The second hand is even loomed. It's this tiny little arrow. So you get to still see the second hand, but it doesn't mess up the format here where you've just got these simple, rounded kind of hands. Just a pip, that's all you get. But if you think about it, it's just a pip is kind of versatile. You can do count up, you can do count down, indicate the starting point of your timing or the ending point. That's actually pretty darn versatile, and you can just then use the little markings on the dial. It's not the easiest timing bezel to use, but it is kind of nice actually. I think I've changed my mind on this super minimalist bezel. I could go for one of these for sure. At 14.9 millimeters thickness, it's about a millimeter thicker than average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. It's got some crown guards, but good grief, those are the smallest crown guards I think I have ever seen on a watch. It's debatable whether they should get any credit for protecting that crown. Crown has a nice crosshatch pattern. I love crosshatch patterns on crowns. You get a really nice grip on there. Total score of 74. In 91st place is the IsoBrite Executive 64. Price of 1,125 bucks, size of 49 millimeters and 300 meters water resistance. It's 64 for the 64 tritium tubes you get. You get all these tritium tubes on the second. The shot looks okay. It's hard to get a good picture of tritium. You get a tritium tube for every single minute, larger tubes for the 5-minute marks. All three hands are loomed, and you get a tritium pip for the bezel as well. It's steel. This is a full steel case, PVD, coated, and it is 15 millimeters thick, 49 across. This thing is going to weigh a ton. Just be prepared for that. Yeah, 15, basically the same as that last one we looked at. It's about a millimeter thicker than average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. This leather strap is not looking great. It's kind of a narrow strap width, actually, for 49. Maybe they should have gone up to like a 24 millimeter strap width or something. The counterbalance on the second is divisive, I'll say. It looks weird to just have the full word IsoBrite right here. I don't think we need that there. This is something unique here, but I don't know. Nice 6 o'clock date here. Full standard time on the dial, except you lose the 6, but it's actually an automatic. A lot of time with these tritium watches, you get a quartz. So that's nice. Total score 76. In 92nd place is the Nautic Fish Thucent Groni Vintage. Price of 1,168 bucks. Size of 43 millimeters and water resistance of 1,000. Cool looking cuts on this bezel. I like that. Yeah, it's got a neat style to it. Nice fume pattern on the dial. Interesting hands. Kind of similar to Signum, actually. There is no loom on the second. That's the downside. Negative display date at the 3 o'clock. And you do have a little piece of loom on the other side of it, so that's good. It is actually thinner than average for the 1,000 meter water resistance. It was almost a millimeter thinner than average for this depth rating. Total score 74. In 93rd place is the Olek & Wash C1000. Price of 1,883 bucks. Size of 39.5 millimeters and water resistance of 1,000. As you can tell by the name of the watch. These darn O&W watches only give you loomed quadrants. Man, I don't think I could ever get past that. I really think a dive watch should have good loom, and this definitely bothers me. It does appear the entire bezel is loomed. This loom shot is not all that great. Same tired old song, they didn't turn off the lights, so we can't really see the loom very well. They probably didn't charge it up all that great. The individual minutes don't appear to be loomed. I think it's every 5 minutes. Yeah, that was my determination. I said loomed hash, which means these individual minute markings aren't actually loomed. Okay, that date is actually looking kind of big at the 6 o'clock. Looks good. It's about average for the 1,000 meter water resistance. The thickness of 15.8 is about average for this depth rating of 1,000 meters. Total score 74. In 94th place is the Delma Santiago Automatic. Price of $1,300. Size of 43 millimeters and 500 meters water resistance. For me, with Delma, I would go for one of their more retro designs. This bezel does not have any loom, so that's a downside. When you see that 60, that usually means you don't get any loom, sadly. They could loom a 60, but you just don't tend to see it. The dial loom looks fine, except there's no second. Never mind, it's not fine. So yeah, it's definitely substandard bezel and dial loom. It is thinner than average. The average for 500 meters is 14.5, and this is 13.3, so it's over a millimeter thinner than average for the 500 meter depth rating. It looks all right, but I wouldn't go for this one. It has Arabic numerals, but they're not loomed. Total score is 74. In 95th place is the Hamilton Navy Scuba Auto. Price of $1,075. Size of 43 millimeters. 300 meters water resistance. I'm getting deja vu looking at this because we had the Hamilton Navy Scuba Quartz in that last video. And it's basically the same thing. No date. I don't know. Doesn't do it for me. Total score 74. In 96th place is the Nomadic Crimson Dawn Mirai 401. Price of $1,150. Size of 40 millimeters. 200 meters water resistance. No second loom. Yeah, these lower grades, these kind of like C minus grades, a lot of them are missing that second loom, and I think that's not good. This one, however, is very thin, 11.5 millimeters thick, is almost 2 millimeters thinner than average for the 200 meter water resistance rating. But you don't get a date on here. That's unfortunate. I do like the red bezel with the black dial. Oh, I don't have a red bezel with a black dial, but Tudor... This is a very cheap Chinese Tudor homage. But Tudor does have a red bezel with a black dial. I think that looks good. The yellow, though, no. Get that yellow out of here. They should have this be the same color as the minute track here. The half track. Yeah, if you're going to have a gold minute track, just make the second hand that same color. Why is it yellow? Yeah, these should match. What are we doing here? Or do a totally different color. Do red like the bezel. That might be nice. Built in Belfast. Interesting. Cool font they used here for the brand name. I like that. Total score 74. In 97th place is a C Pro Scuba 200. Price of $995. 43 millimeters cross and 200 meters water resistance. Man, I don't know why C Pro watches are so expensive. Is it because they have like a scuba store and they can be the only watch in there, and so people are looking for a dive watch and this is the only one they see, so they're willing to spend $1,000 on totally generic dive watch? There's a deep blue watch that has 300 meters water resistance, 40 millimeters, that is $150. Why would you do the C Pro over that deep blue? The deep blue one even has a helium escape valve. You could even use it for professional diving. So I'm not seeing why this one exists. Okay, now 10 millimeters is super thin. That is actually kind of crazy. This is in that list of the thinnest dive watches. So they did manage to get a super thin watch. But yeah, that's kind of all it's got going for it. Mineral crystal. Are there any other $1,000 watches with mineral crystal? Makes you think, doesn't it? Makes you wonder. There's no bracelet extension on this. I don't get it. Score 74. In 98th place is the Zodiac Super Sea Wolf 53 Compression. Price of $1,395. Size of 40 millimeters. 200 meters water resistance. Wow, there's a lot of colors. Black, blue, silver, purple, light blue, white, and then this nice green. Not a forest green, but like a different kind of green. This one is quite thin. 10.8 millimeters thickness is 2.5 millimeters thinner than average for the 200 meter water resistance rating. Date window is looking really good. It's centered. High bar, right? Yeah. The date is actually centered in the cutout. Don't always see that. Beveled edges and a nice black date border. Yeah, you don't have to go too crazy to make a date look nice. This looks nice. There is no loom on the other side of it, though. There's not really much room there. I don't think they could do it and have it look good. So I kind of understand on this particular watch why they didn't do that. Sometimes there's plenty of room for a loom plot, but this one doesn't have room there. Very nice minute track here. Very crisp. easy to read. I like the orange minute hand. I think another color might look a little better. I like to put up some different colors for you to see, but I bet another color does look better on this Zodiac Super Seawolf. Very cool though. Score of 73. In 99th place is the Armand Nicolet JS941. Price of $1,812, size of 41 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. There's no loom on this bezel. That's disappointing. You get these really cool patterns here. It's reminding me of, like, what is that Chinese thing? When they have these weird slashes, and I forget what it's called. It's an interesting shape there. It says Swiss made. I can't remember if this is a French brand or something. Looks good though. That logo kind of looks like the Smith & Wesson logo on their silicone strap. That's interesting. A little bit slimmer than average. It's 0.7 millimeters thinner than average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. Total score 73. In 100th place is the Andersman Ocean Master 2. Price of $1,280, 47 millimeters across, and 1,000 meters water resistance. They seem like solid watches. There's something about these Andersmans. They just look really solid, really well built. It's just looks. Looks can be deceiving, of course. The crown looks really nice here. The sandwich dial looks good. I like that these are a little bit thinner. Sometimes with the sandwich dial, you get these chunky numbers. These are nice and slim. They look really good. The textured dial is nice. Maybe that's what I like about these. They have nice dials on these ones. I like that you get the minute numerals in 5-minute increments all the way around the chapter ring here. Your bezel, you only get numerals every 15, but you do get all the minutes up until the 15, so that's pretty good. 17.6 millimeters thick. This is just about 2 millimeters thicker than average for the 1,000 meter water resistance rating. So this is a thick watch for sure. Total score is 73. In 101st place is the Orion Calamity. Price of $1,650. Size of 39.5 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. This is the first one we've seen that is like just underneath the recommendation threshold. If you do a little extra credit, see that teacher after class, do some makeup work, you can get it up to a C grade. You don't have to have the C minus. So yeah, any that you see from now on with the yellow medallion, that means you got to change out the strap one way or another. This bracelet has no extension on the clasp, and so it lost 3 points. Change it to silicone or NATO or whatever, you change it to something else and you can get your grade up for a dive watch. Yeah, a bracelet without an extension is really not the best for a dive watch. Much better to have that extension. And in my opinion, if you're not going to have the extension, may as well just put it on a nylon strap, a sailcloth, something else. 200 meters water resistance is fine for most of us. There's no date on this. I'm trying to figure out why is it going below the threshold. Oh, this is a mistake. I'm sorry I'm finding so many mistakes on the scorecard with this particular video. I did these scorecards the first. I think I started with this price tier before the others. So I think I ironed some things out in subsequent videos. Yeah, I said no second loom here, which is a 3-point penalty. This should actually be a 75. That makes a lot more sense to me. Because I'm looking at this loom, I'm like, how's this getting a 72? This looks better than that, even though it doesn't have a date. And it does. Yeah, this should be a 75. Anyway, you get that second loom. That's looking good. The loom in general is actually looking really good. Yeah, and it's thinner than average for the 200 meter water resistance rating. It's a couple millimeters thinner than average. 11.3 is very good thickness. Total score 75. In 102nd place is the Nubio Manta. Price of $1,300. Size of 45 millimeters and 300 meters water resistance. Again, Nubio, I guess, is just a really expensive watch brand. They have hands similar to that Isotope, but these are kind of skeletonized. You know, they kind of curve around. I really like that. These hands really make me happy. But look at here. There is no loom on that second hand. Okay, I got that one right. Very interesting bracelet here. You cannot change the bracelet out, which is why this doesn't get the score. Because look at the width between the lugs. I mean, you can see they've got some sort of fancy hex bar thing holding it in. But what are you going to change it to? Because look at this crazy thin thing here. I guess you could have some weird thin strap or something. But yeah, this is 19 thick. Ridiculous. The depth rating that has an average thickness of 19 is 6,000, but this depth rating is 300. And of course that average thickness is 13.7. So this thing is fully 5 millimeters thicker than average. That's ridiculous. Really good looking loom though. Aside from it missing the second hand. inexplicably. Now you can still tell if it's running. You could see that second hand pass over some other markings, and you could tell your watch is running. But it's still better if you actually have lume on the second. Helium escape valve on this thing, if you need such a thing. Going in those chambers. Total score is 72. In 103rd place is the Ocean Crawler Great Lakes. Price of $9.99, size of 40 millimeters and 300 meters water resistance. You've got some recessed crowns here for the internal rotating bezel. No markings on here, well, no numerals, just these kind of symbols going on. I think that could be okay. The lume actually looks really cool. Very unique look to this one. Circular date window here at the 6 o'clock. What does it say here? GLD? GLD. Rochester, New York. I have no idea what that means. 13.5 millimeters thick is totally average. Score 72. In 104th place is the Vulcane Skin Diver Nautique. Price of $1,692. Size of 38 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. Yeah, good size on this. I think people will like that. Lume is weak sauce, and there's nothing on the bezel. There's no second lume. It's thinner than average, a millimeter thinner than average for the depth rating. Very pretty dial. I like that a lot, but not the best performer specs-wise. Score 72. And 102nd of the ones that I will recommend in this price category is the Alpina Sea Strong Diver 300. Price of $1,595. Size of 44 millimeters. Water resistance of 300. Bezel is looking good. Just the lume in general is looking good on here. But no second lume. Man, they're really skimping on that second lume. And I don't understand why. All you have to do is just put a little bit of lume there on the end. Use that same lume you used on your indexes here. That would look good. No numerals on the bezel. I like to have numerals because if you're timing something that's out in one of these areas over here, 40, 35, you're going to be counting 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 to find out what time it is. It's just silly. Why do we have to do that? Just give me some numerals, make my life easier. That's my feeling on the matter. Cool brown color. Also comes in black. Total score 72. In 106th place is the Bauzel Ocean Moon 5. Price of $1,300. Size of 42 millimeters. 200 meters water resistance. Got kind of a crown guardy thing going on here. It's an internal rotating bezel with a screw down crown. So you screw that thing down and it's not going to move. Not the greatest contrast here with the dial. And you get no minute markings on the dial itself. That's a pet peeve of mine. I like to see them on the dial as well as on the bezel. Lume pattern looks okay. I don't know how long it's going to last. It's looking a little dim in this shot. The hands are looking a little dim. So that'd be interesting to see how long this stuff lasts. Check out our review for that. You can get it in black, blue, green, and white. It is a millimeter thicker than average. Total score 72. In 107th place is the Zello Swordfish Tantalum. Price $1,499, size of 40 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. Interestingly, this is the only tantalum watch in the full 633 watch video series, which is bizarre to me because tantalum, you know, maybe I just didn't choose ones that had tantalum or I didn't choose the tantalum option or something, but tantalum itself is incredibly corrosion resistant. Like not just against salt water, against like acids and stuff. So it seems like it would be a good material for a dive watch. It is extra heavy though. It's heavier than steel. So it loses some points there for the weight of it. But yeah, up here, it's not, you know, normal steel loses a couple points for its propensity to corrode. Even though stainless steel is highly corrosion resistant, it's just, there's more corrosion resistant materials out there, tantalum being one of them. So yeah, it kind of comes out in the wash a little bit. Yeah, actually, when all is considered under my scoring system, at least, tantalum gets 1 point greater than steel. But yeah, you just don't see it very much. This is the only one in the video series. Lume on these Zellos watches is fantastic. I mean, it's not the best ever. We saw some Zellos where they didn't have a thing on the opposite of the date window, that sort of thing. But this is looking great. That minute track is fully lumed. I mean, all you get is the bezel pip. And there's no markings on the bezel. That's one reason why this is a score of a 71, C-. Interesting, I'm seeing a little... Is this crystal locked in here? No, that wouldn't make sense. But I'm seeing these little cuts here. 12-sided ring here. That's very interesting. I don't know what the deal with that is. I really like this case, though. It's reminiscent of the Samurai, of course, but a little bit different. It's very cool. The Swordfish is a sweet watch. This tantalum one costs more than the other materials, but it's just a sweet watch. I think it was in the top 10 in the previous one. I forget exactly where it ended up on the previous video, but it scored very highly. 12 millimeters thick is over a millimeter thinner than average for the 200 meter water resistance rating. Color match date wheel. A lot of stuff to like about this one. Score 71. 103rd of the ones I'll recommend is the Movas Bronze Diver 2. Price of $1,720. Size of 42 millimeters. 300 meters water resistance. Oh, that's cool. In the 12 o'clock position, they have this big circle, and that's loomed. That looks nice. Loom is decent on this. It's actually good. It looks like every single one of these markings is loomed. What did I say? I said loomed pip. Okay, so it's just a slightly darkened room. I don't think these individual... Yeah, you can see they're metal. These aren't loomed here. Only the pip is loomed on the bezel. But, you know, they still may catch the light pretty nicely. That seems like it would be good. Really cool, like a lizardy type of pattern here on the dial. That's interesting. I think I would prefer if the green and blue, like it was either the bezel was also green or the dial was also blue, but that they would match each other. Is there a Cyclops here on the 6 o'clock date? It looks like there might be. Oh, I can zoom in. That's it's still sort of blurry. Yeah, it looks like there is a Cyclops there. Interesting. Weird case shape too on this. You know how it's like, it's a circle, but then it's cut off here on the sides. Black PVD crown, it looks like. Cool crown guards. You do get a lizard leather strap here. Oh, that's what I'm saying. You should swap out the lizard strap. Or you could leave it on. Very short lugs here. Score 71. In 109th place is the Benris Ultra Deep. Price of $1,095. Size of 37 millimeters. Water resistance of 200. Okay, so how is 200 ultra deep? Like, why are we saying 200's ultra deep? That's a little silly. Maybe in like, you know, the 30s or something, 200 was insane depth rating. I don't know. Yeah, it's all right. It's an internal rotating bezel. If you like those sorts of things. The date is actually looking pretty big. They really put it out to the edge. I think it works. It's interrupting these minute marks, but I think it works. Interesting hands on this too. Pretty cool. The loom actually looks really nice on this. Total score 71. In 110th place is the Grupo Ardito Numero 0. Price of $1,418. Size of 44 millimeters and 1,700 meters water resistance. This is the only one with that water resistance. Between 1,000 and 2,000, we established that 17 millimeters is pretty normal, so it's about average for that depth rating. This is one of the ones with no rotating bezel. They just don't tend to score very well because that bezel is such a prominent part of a dive watch. It is something dive watches are known for that you expect to be on there. So it does lose a lot of points for that. Very cool style on this. Very stylized. Clearly Italian stuff going on here. I'm getting the Italian vibes. Couldn't find a loom shot. You can tell the loom is going to be pretty darn good though. Total score 70. In 111th place is the Traumatic AC14. Not traumatic, Traumatic. Price $1,395. 39 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. Very cool loom. They chose to just have a long line in between 15 and 30. You know, if you're not going to actually put slashes here, I think this is a really cool thing to do. It certainly looks cool in the dark. So I can get behind that. I think that actually looks pretty darn cool. My preference, of course, is to just have the slashes all the way around, but I'm more of a tool watch dive kind of guy. This pattern on the dial looks kind of like wood grain or something. It looks pretty cool. Just a lot of three-dimensional stuff going on. The color of it, though, I don't care for. I don't care for the color of this, though. It's an orangey red thing. It's like, for me, do orange or do red, but don't do in between. I mean, it's hard to say because there are some really cool, like, peachy colors or rosy colors. There's some cool colors you can get. This one is not one of the cool colors. It's a rusty kind of look. I don't care for it, personally. It's not working for me. Maybe it's because with the black and the white and I don't know. Shiny looking case. 12.5 millimeters thick is almost a millimeter thinner than average for the 200 meter water resistance rating. Total score 70. 105th of the ones that I'll recommend is the Alpina Sea Strong Diver 300 Heritage. This is another one that I manufactured the loom shot. Man, I had time on my hands, I guess. But yeah, I couldn't find an actual loom shot. So here's what it probably looks like. The bezel is fully loomed. per description, so this is what it would look like. So all these little dots and everything. 2.3 millimeters thick, is almost 1.5 millimeters thinner than average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. Seems pretty good. I normally do like gold. This is a little bit too dark for me. I think it would look better if this was a little bit lighter. This is more of like a bronze color rather than a gold. This is like University of Colorado Buffaloes right here. The black and gold. I do like that. Score 70. In 113th place is the Xeno Watch Base Divers 500 2824. Oh, is that the movement? ETA 2824? I bet that's what that means. Price of $990, 47 millimeters across, 500 meters water resistance. It's like a UFO shaped case or something. Oh, there's like an airplane on it. I don't know. It's really weird. Does it have a bezel? Yeah, the bezel turns. Okay. And with your bezel, you get a tachometer. Very useful for diving, right? I mean, there's a plane on it, so clearly that's like a plane thing. Did I give it a multifunction bezel? Oh, I said distracting complication. If you're diving, this is going to distract you. Okay. So that's one of the reasons it didn't pass the class, as we say, get your tachometer off of that thing. Use a complication that's useful for diving. I see. So 19 millimeters thick is absolutely nuts. The average for 500 is 14.5. So this is 4.5 millimeters thicker than average for this depth rating. Where are the lugs? I guess underneath. Total score 70. In 114th place is the Andersman Deep Ocean. Price of $2,180. Size of 47 millimeters, like the last one we saw. This is looking sick. I really like how it looks. Style-wise, it gets top marks from me. It is missing the minute marks though, so I don't care for that. They're copying Panerai. Panerai does that. I don't know if Panerai was the first to do it. I'm sure other brands have done that too. I don't care for it personally. The average thickness for a 3,000 meter dive watch is 17.5. So this is fully 2.5 millimeters thicker than the average. It is a titanium case, so that's going to feel good. Again, the crown just looks so good. The crown guards really seem to guard it too. Whatever they're doing with the crown, I really like it. It's got kind of a Yachtmaster style bezel, but you get this nice big pip. The loom actually looks really good. It's just standard dive loom, but it looks really nice. Total score of 68. In 115th place is the Ole Matheson 1919 Navy. Price of $2,050, 40 millimeters across, and 120 meters water resistance. What is that depth rating? That's funny. These are the only guys with 120 meter depth rating. Let's look at the thickness. 10 millimeters is quite thin. The average for 100 meters water resistance is 13.4. So yeah, this is solidly 3.4 millimeters thinner than average. This is in the top 10, actually, thinnest dive watches in the video series. Very nice. PVD steel case. Yeah, it seems pretty darn good to me. I think it lost a lot for the depth rating, because for a dive watch, 200 or 300 is kind of what people are expecting from like a real dive watch instead of just a dive style watch. That's the trade-off there. Oh, push-pull crown. Well, there you go. You get a push-pull crown, that really tanks the score. Total score 68. In 116th place is the Aurum Veblen dive watch. Price of $1,015. Size of 40 millimeters, 200 meters water resistance. The color combo is not looking the best to me. You get your military time here in the middle. It's just a bit much. It's just too loud. It bothers me too that they have this picture above stones or something. I don't know. There's something about it that's just rubbing me the wrong way. You can see it's got a screw down crown. They pulled it out for you. Well, can you? Can we see? Yeah, I think so. I think we can see that it's a screw down crown, not a push pull. It's not just a stem you see. You see like a little tube or something. So yeah, I think it's a screw down crown. 15.5 millimeters thick is a couple millimeters thicker than average. There's no extension on the bracelet. I couldn't find a loom shot. It's either misaligned bezel or they're one click shy. But it doesn't quite look halfway in between, does it? So yeah, this is a misaligned bezel on their product shot. The actual logo, Aurum here, with the O with a slash through it, that's not looking so great either. This, whatever writing they have, oh, I'm sorry, it's blurry. Veblen, 200 meters, something. It's not looking good. Yeah, I think steer clear of this one. Sorry guys, whoever made this watch. Sorry, but I think people should steer clear of your watch. Total score 68. In 117th place is the Squale Super Squale. Price $1,146. Size of 38 millimeters. 200 meters water resistance. Seems like I've got every watch in the Squale catalog in this video. That's kind of funny. My intention was to just do a few from each watch brand, but it does seem like I did a lot of these Squales. This is probably not the Squale to get. It's got kind of a low score. It is thinner than average. Millimeter thinner than average. Score 67. In 118th place is the Armand Nicolet VS1. Price of $1,528. Size of 38 millimeters. 100 meters water resistance. The bezel is looking really shiny and pretty. I don't care for this orange on the indexes though. I think if the color matched what was on the bezel, that would look so much better. And maybe just matched the hands. So yeah, that's a problem for me. The textured Fume dial does look really nice. I like the red. That is pretty. Pretty shiny bezel. Cyclops is doing some weird stuff to that number. I would try to angle it slightly differently to not get it to look so weird if I was taking a shot of this. Not recommended. Score 67. In 119th place is the Tonino Lamborghini Panfilo. Price of $1,703. Size of 44 millimeters and 300 meters water resistance. Interesting angled slashes here. Yeah, that gives it a cool look. Crazy strap attachment mechanism here. I've got all these holes where dirt's going to get into. But yeah, I don't think you're going to be changing out this strap. It's a very unique look. The dial looks tiny on this watch. Yeah, I couldn't find a loom shot, but per description, there's no second loom, and then there's nothing on the 12 and the 6, so you've got a disappointing loom pattern. Total score 67. In 120th place is the William Wood Heritage. Price of $1,185. 41 millimeters across, 100 meters water resistance. It is very pretty. It's a very pretty watch. If it's for a fireman, though, this bothers me that around the outside, there's no minute markings. So it's going to be hard to tell the time. I mean, there sort of is. You can sort of see these. Let me zoom in. Okay. They've sort of got little markings here. I think that's confusing, though. I would take off all this checker thing and just leave it normal so we could see it. It's got kind of a pie pan shape to the dial there. That's cool. I like the little helmet there. That's cute. They do like a fire hose strap thing. The blue one looks really nice too. It's not the best watch. It's sort of a dive style watch. Standard dive loom. Total score is 66. In 121st place is the Zodiac Super Seawolf Skin Diver. Price of $1,595. Size of 39 millimeters. 200 meters water resistance. Loom is looking good on this. I like that. No second loom though. So it's substandard loom actually without the second. Very retro looking watch here. No extension on that bracelet. Very thin. 11.6 millimeters is almost a couple millimeters thinner than average. Total score 66. In 122nd place is the VDB D22. Price of $1,450. 47 millimeters across, 500 meters water resistance. Very brown, very reflective bezel here. You can see the guy holding the camera, taking the picture. So it's going to reflect a lot of light off of this domed sapphire crystal. Very thick, 17 millimeters thick, is 2.5 millimeters thicker than average for the 500 meter water resistance rating. Score 65. In 123rd place is the Resco Black Frog Gen 2. Price of $1,905, 42 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. I think it looks pretty cool. I just don't know who Resco is. I don't know I've never heard of that darn brand. But yeah, you do get loom on the second. These indices are really pale though. It's not looking so great. It's got a quartz movement. Probably not what people want for $2,000. Total score 65. In 124th place is the IkePod C-Pod. Price of $1,508, 46 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. I said something had a UFO-shaped case before. This one really has a UFO-shaped case. The tiniest little darn crown you've ever seen. That looks bad. Really cool design on this. Good loom. You don't get minute loom. You just get the 5-minute marks. And you get numerals, so I guess that's pretty good. No second loom, just a white second hand. The loom shot is, yeah, it's all blurry. It's looking weird. Way, way thicker than it ever should have to be. The average thickness for 200 meters is 13.3, so 17.7 is 4.5 millimeters thicker than average. Total score 64. 125th place, This is wonderful. The Troubadour watch, price of $999, size of 41 millimeters, 100 meters water resistance. If this thing wasn't $1,000, I would buy one today. You know, if it was a more reasonable price. As a dive watch, of course, it's failing the class. It's getting a D grade in the class. Push pull crown, 100 meters water resistance. That's not great. I think they should have used an NH35 and priced it around $300 or $400. It's a really cool idea. Yeah, this is a musician's watch, so it's got the circle of fifths on it. You know, on the dial, you've got kind of what you would use for a minor key, and then on the chapter ring, you've got what you would use for a major key. These chord symbols tell you what so in A major, for example, F sharp would be the 6 here, and your B minor, that would be your supertonic chord. So that's really cool. That would be so cool. So you turn the bezel to whatever key you're in. If you're in G major, you put the G at the top, and then you'll be able to see that like the D is the dominant chord, because when the G is at the top, it's your 5 is right here, so D is dominant, and then of course your subdominant is over here, the C over here. Anyway, very cool. It seems to be nice and thin, 10.5 millimeters thick. That's cool. 6 o'clock date. I like that. Couldn't find a loom shot of it. There's no loom on the bezel. But yeah, if you design a watch for musicians, don't make it this expensive. This is crazy. Like, I'm a musician. I'm considering getting a tablet to help in playing in symphony and stuff, and I'm balking at the price. And a good tablet's gonna be like $500 or something. Why would I get a watch that's $1,000 to use for music stuff? It doesn't make sense. Like, it's priced too high. It's just priced too high. I wish this exact option was way cheaper. I would totally buy one. Apparently the clasp on the bracelet does have an extension. That's nice. Yeah, I just wish they could get the price down. I like the trumpet here where it says Troubadour. That's cool. Total score 63. In 126th place is the Carlson Shogun BRS 3A. Price of $1,295. 48 millimeters across, 500 meters water resistance rating. Beautiful huge pip here. I really like to see that. There's no loom on the second hand. Okay, it says there is. Yeah, there's a thin sliver. Let's zoom in. Yeah, there it is. Thin sliver of loom on that second hand. That's going to fade so quickly and you're not going to see it anymore. But yeah, there is loom on the second. Okay, it gets credit. At least they put the numbers on these medallions. If you're going to copy Panerai, please put the numbers on. So good job, guys. 18 millimeters thick is thicker than average. The average is 14.5. So what is that? 3.5 millimeters thicker than average. Really cool looking crown guards here. And this whole thing looks totally cool. But it lost points. There's no minute markings on the dial. That's a shame. Total score 60. In 127th place is the Oken Oscar Team Schuster. The model's actually called a Humboldt. Price of $2,022. Size of 39.5 millimeters. Water resistance of 100. Loom is weak. Loom looks bad on this thing. Just judging by the loom shot here. There's no loom on the second. I do like that sledgehammer counterbalance on Oken Oscar second hands. But Team Schuster is like a curling team. So this has some sort of tie-in with curling, where you slide the stones across the ice. Very cool. I like the color match date wheel. I like that the 7 has a slash through it. That's cool style. You get a dual time bezel. Yeah, this is not the watch to get, in my opinion. Score of 59. 128th place is the Inera Marine. Price of $1,686. Size of 46 millimeters. 100 meters water resistance. I don't know why there's these watches that are so huge. Oh wait, it's not that huge. It's only 13.4 millimeters thick. That's exactly the average for 100 meters water resistance. Okay, so it's not thick, but it's a 46. Yeah, it looks like it would go deeper. That's all I'm saying. There's no dive bezel. It's got all these crazy screws on it. It just looks hardcore. But then it's 100 meters water resistance. So I'm perplexed by that. Kind of a blue-purple dial here. Interesting, like shield or something. I can't see exactly what this says. It's too blurry. I think it says Swiss movement. Yeah. Score 59. In 129th place is the H992 dive watch. Price of $1,072. 42 millimeters across and 100 meters water resistance. It's got that PRX case shape. It is PVD steel. Silicone strap on this. That's interesting. 10.1 millimeters thick is very slim. It's actually in the top 10 slimmest dive watches. I mean, is it a dive watch? But anyway, the average is 13.4 and this is 10.1, so it's over 3 millimeters thinner than average. Very thin. They don't get much thinner than this, folks. But yeah, no rotating bezel. It really is more of a sports watch. It is an automatic chronometer for $1,072. I mean, that's impressive. It says chronometer right there on the dial. Officially certified chronometer. I think this is a cool watch. It's just not really a good dive watch. Score 58. In 130th place is the Micro Mil-Spec USSF Space Force. Price $1,725. Size of 42 millimeters. 200 meters water resistance. Yeah, the Space Force is cool. Of course it's cool. But it's not cool to put that on your watch when it has nothing to do with the Space Force. You know, the Space Force has a mission of defending our country, not designing watches. So it bothers me when people put this on there to make it seem official. There's even some kind of symbol here, a registered trademark or whatever. That's incorrect. That's not correct. You can't just take some government logo. I mean, you can, clearly you can, but I don't think it's right to do it, to just slap it on your watch. And that way people think, oh my goodness, this is a Space Force watch. It's not a Space Force watch. It's sort of PRX shape here. It does have a rotating dive bezel. No lume on the bezel, no lume on the seconds. Poor lume. It's just not a great dive watch. It's nice that they color match the date wheel and did a circular cutout, but $1,700? Oof. I hope nobody's tricked by this. It has a push-pull crown. Yeah, don't get this watch. Just stay away. Stay far, far away. Total score of 54. Final two. In 131st place is the Sfera Desk Diver. Price of $1,298. 40.5 millimeters across and 100 meters water resistance. Push-pull crown on this thing. I mean, it says Desk Diver on it. You got these screws here. Yeah, I doubt this thing is very water resistant with the just like straight screws. It looks slightly off, like it's tilted a little bit there to the right. Not looking good. Yeah, no second lume. Score 54. In last place, it's really sad to see it, is the U-Boat Dark Moon. Price of $1,550. Size of 44 millimeters. 50 meters water resistance. I am super perplexed by this. I just don't even get it. I don't understand what's going on here. So the point of filling a watch with oil is that it's got really extreme depth rating. There's a Sinn oil-filled watch that scores really well. It's got a 5,000 meter depth rating, and it's only 13 millimeters thick because that oil prevents the watch from being crushed by forces. Like, it makes sense. You know, an empty pop can is either easier to crush than a full pop can, which makes sense. Why is it only 50 meters? I don't get it. I just don't understand. But there's no second hand on this at all. There's just a bunch of perplexing things about this watch. It's just not the best. I want it to be the best. U-Boat looks really cool. I would love to have an oil-filled watch. U-Boat is not the one for me, obviously, with the 50 meters water resistance. I mean, maybe you decide you just don't care. You just go for the cool factor, the rule of cool. I could see that. I would love to have one of these. It looks really cool. But $1,500, that's the other thing about it. They have a ton of colors, really cool ones. They have one with a red crystal on it. Just looks really, really dramatic, just really cool, frankly. But it's not a great dive watch. Score 41. All right, at long last, doing the top 10. If there's some noises in the background, I apologize for that. I kind of have to record when I can, so I'm just going to power through. In 10th place, we have the Doxa Sub 600T. Price $1,550. 40 millimeters across, 600 meters water resistance. The lume is looking pretty good on this one. The lume shot shows something at 3 o'clock. We've got a date on this one. You can get a no-date version as well. So yeah, on the date version, you're not going to get any lume there. There's no lume at the 3 o'clock. Lume looks decent. It's just kind of standard lume. Nothing to necessarily write home about, but it'll do the trick. Main thing on this Doxa is this multi-feature bezel. They give you your no decompression times. As I've mentioned before, divers like to avoid the decompression thing. If you have to do decompression, you're supposed to wait 12 hours before flying, those sorts of things. And also you have to do all these stops on the way up. So if you're only diving down to 80 feet, then apparently you can do a 40-minute dive. That's what this thing is telling us. Very cool design from Doxa. Unique looking crown here. Just the case is... There's certainly other watches that copy this one. There's no need to buy a homage because the actual real thing is $1,550. Like, it's not a luxury watch is all I'm saying. It is an expensive watch. It's definitely out of my price range. I'd have to save up for months and months and months and months. It could be done. At 14.2 millimeters thick, it is almost a millimeter thinner than average for the 600 meter water resistance rating. Yeah, that average is 15.0, so almost a millimeter thinner than average. So that's cool. It says bracelet extension. I'm showing it on the silicone. I should have put up a picture with the bracelet, and apparently there's an extension on that. Not the fanciest in the world from what I hear, but it does actually extend. Don't expect Rolex Glide Lock level quality there. Total score of 87. In ninth place is the Titoni C-Scoper 600, price of $2,150, size of 42 millimeters, and 600 meters water resistance. Exact same thickness as that Doxa we saw, so it's almost a millimeter thinner than average for the 600 meter water resistance rating. Yeah, this Titoni did a lot better than that other Titoni we saw. I think the other one was a 200 meter dive watch. Or no, it was a 300. But yeah, this one's a 600, and it's good thickness for that depth rating. I love these colors here, the gold hands with this navy blue, and then the kind of cream colored loom paint here, and then they did a great job on this. This is looking so styling. I really like that. And it's its own thing. You know, you've got the numerals. Kind of reminds me of Longines a little bit with the numerals. But these hands are totally unique. And yeah, I just like the whole thing. This is a stylish looking watch. And it's a chronometer. The bracelet has an extension on it. The bracelet looks pretty nice. Yeah, this looks like a really good dive watch. Score of 87. In 8th place is the Squale 1521 Kosk. Price of $1,676. Size of 42 millimeters and 500 meters water resistance. I think they offer the 1521 without the chronometer certification from Kosk. I would go with the Kosk one though. It's $1,676. Throughout this video, we saw watches that were like $2,000, $1,900 that didn't have a chronometer certification, and they were like 15 millimeters thick or whatever. This one is 12.5. The average for 500 meters is 14.5 millimeters. So 12.5 millimeters, this is 2 millimeters thinner than average for that depth rating. I mean, 12.5 is thin for a dive watch, period. But this has 500 meters. Like, this is solid. You can make a case this is all you ever need in a dive watch, that this is the ultimate dive watch. You get full lume on the bezel. I like the accented orange minute hand here. They have a ton of colors. Apparently there's even a pink one. I had no idea there was a pink Squale 1521. Excellent choice from Squale. Score of 87. In 7th place is the Dievas Maya Mark III. Price of $1,240. Size of 41 millimeters. 1,000 meters water resistance. Loom is looking so good on this. You've got orange countdown loom, and then you've got green all the way the rest around. Yeah, full loom bezel. The colors are really nice. This blue is really popping. I like the fume pattern on the dial. You've got Flieger handset here, except the second hand has a paddle on the end. I like the 369. It does have a lot of Flieger elements going on here, but it is a dive watch. 4 o'clock crown is recessed into the case, so you have protection there for that crown. The bracelet has an extension on it. They've done some sort of bead blasting or something with this. You know, they threw it in the rock tumbler or something. It looks really nice. The finishing on this case is nice. It's kind of a rough finish. Yeah, cool design. I think the black one looks really nice. Not so sure about the green, the lime green one. The black one looks really cool though too. Total score of 88. In 6th place is the Certina DS Super PH 1000M. 1000 meters. Price of $1,106. Size of 43.5. Water resistance of 1,000. Yeah, and at 14.2 for a 1,000 meter dive watch, it is quite thin. The average is 15.7, so this is 1.5 millimeters thinner than average. So that's really nice. You love to see something that's thinner than average. I think this orange looks really good. The coolest thing about this watch is the safety bezel. There's very few watches that have a safety bezel, but the bezel won't turn. I mean, I bet this feels kind of weird, but in order to turn the bezel, you have to push it in and turn like you would on a child safety cap. That's really cool. I'm a kind of guy, I just have a friction fit bezel, so I can't make a clicky sound with it, but I'm the kind of guy that my bezel always gets off. I mean, not on this Komandirsky, that Russian design. This thing doesn't migrate. But anyway, a normal dive bezel will rotate on me. So yeah, a safety bezel really appeals to me. I would like that. This is a little weird. The minute hand is accented orange, but against that orange dial, it looks kind of strange. Might look better on the black one. I bet it looks better on the black one. Just comes on this funky looking silicone strap. Yeah, it's a retro style for sure. I like that you get all the numerals in 5-minute increments and then all these little slashes. That appeals to me greatly. Loom is decent. It's just standard dive loom, nothing fancy. Cool option. Score of 88. In 5th place is the Echo Nutra Cristallo. Price of $1,190. Size of 42 millimeters, 500 meters water resistance. Beautiful dial here. I love that color. That green is so good. And the way that they have it graduating from dark to light. It's such a simple trick to do. I mean, I've seen a ton of dive watches that do this pattern that goes gradually from dark to light. It always looks good. It's a nice look for a dive watch. I like you've got your numerals here. So many distinctive things about this. Let's look at the loom. Full loom on the bezel, great loom on the dial. You have your no decompression times here, no deco times. All it says is meters. And if you're going to go down to 21 meters, it looks like you have 48 minutes for that dive, and then you got to surface unless you want to do decompression stuff. That's my understanding of how you use the bezel. Can't really use it for anything else, though. I mean, I guess you can just use that triangle to indicate the time something ends. Like, let's say you needed to time 15 minutes. Just put the triangle here, right here. And then once that minute goes from the 10 all the way down to the 25, 15 minutes have passed. You can use it for that. So it's still functional bezel. Not as a count-up bezel. You're not going to be counting up with this thing very well. You still could. You could put this at the 10, and then 15 minutes later, you could just count on the dial to find out how much has passed. You can make it work. It's not as useful as a count-up bezel, in my opinion. I think a count-up bezel or a count-down bezel is more useful than no deco exclusive bezel. But you get a power reserve on this. Power reserve is the best dive complication. I mean, other than the bezel and the second hand, and all, I mean, there's a ton of complications on dive watches. But yeah, power reserve is sweet. It's great to know how much power you have. In terms of the wearing experience, it's about 14 millimeters, and it's about half a millimeter thinner than average for the 500 meter water resistance. Very nice. They also make a blue one and a black one. I would go for this green one. That's looking really good. It's not a chronometer. It's $1,200. So yeah, not a chronometer, but $1,200. You don't necessarily expect it right at $1,200. The bracelet does have an extension on it, so that's nice. Score of 89. In 4th place, we have the Yema Superman 500 Dato. Price of $1,149. Size of 39 millimeters. Water resistance of 500 meters. These are are they that thin? Okay, 13.4. This is about a millimeter thinner than average for the 500 meter water resistance rating. So it is thinner than average, that's cool. Oh, that's right. This has a bezel lock. Did I give it credit for that? Yes, I did. I gave it four darn points for that bezel lock. You have to unscrew the crown slightly, and this little grippy thing will release, and then you can turn this thing freely. I think you can go either way. It's a friction bezel, from what I remember. And then it just locks down once you screw down that crown. That's cool. This bracelet is really nice. Yeah, that bezel lock. I think Yema's the only one doing that one on this watch. The Glycine Airman has a very similar thing, but they use an entirely separate crown for that. But the Glycine Airman doesn't have a screw-down crown, so that's why. But anyway, yeah, the bracelet is really cool. Oh man, that looks so good how you have brushed and polished mixed here with these two diamondy patterns. That's looking good. It has an extension on the bracelet. If you can actually buy this watch, I think that would be great. Oh, they copied the Seiko secondhand. That's a little bit weird. Fishing lure secondhand. You can also get a black or a blue or a white. Date's looking pretty cool. The loom is all right. Nothing to write home about. It looks like just average limb to me. Score of 89. In third place is the Sinn 105 ST-SA. Priced $1,840. Size of 41 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. Makes me happy to see a Sinn. You know, this is the fourth video. I love Sinn watches. And now I'm finally there. Because after this one, I'm doing the luxury one. And yeah, it's Sinn City in luxury land. Cool day date. You get the vertical day. 6 o'clock day date. Does this have a sandwich dial? No. Where does it say? Applied indices. Applied indices? That's a mistake. These are actually printed indices. Interesting. This should be a score of 91. Doesn't change its ranking, but it should be a score of 91 because these are printed indices, not applied. And yes, applied indices can fall off. I saw this really hilarious post recently where somebody's applied indices had all fallen off. It was probably staged, but applied indices do fall off. It's only 200 meters water resistance. You can argue that's enough. And clearly, you know, the way I set up my scoring system, you can still get in the top 10 if you have 200 meters water resistance. Like, it's still a suitable dive watch, in my opinion. 11.9 millimeters thick is very nice. Yeah, that's a millimeter under the average, at least. A little bit more than a millimeter under the average. You get a multifunction bezel here. Both your elapsed time, minutes, and a dual time. Very cool. And the way they do it, because a lot of times when you do the numerals, you have to skip some dashes. But when you do a multifunction bezel like this, you can just make it smaller. And then you don't have to skip any of the slashes. This is awesome. This is a great way of doing it. I really like how they did that. I like that the minutes are on the inside and the dual time's on the outside. I've seen it the other way, and intellectually I can understand why you would do it that other way, because the hour hand is shorter, the minute hand's longer, so have hours on the inside, minutes on the outside. But I think this is more useful because you want a little more precision with that minute hand to actually see which one it is. The dual time thing, like, it doesn't have to be as precise. You get an extension on this bracelet. Yeah, Sinns are so cool. Score of 89. In second place is the Bühlmann Decompression. Priced $1,872. Size of 46 millimeters. Water resistance of 575, which is all anyone should ever need. It's more than you even need, but this thing is so over-engineered, it is ridiculous. I'm going to try to, have many complications here, 8 points for all the crazy complications it has. I will try to go over them all. The first complication I'm going to tell you about is this decompression bezel. So they give you 3 decompression bezels with this. The one that's on here right now is for the depth of 40 meters, but they also give you one for 30 meters and one for 20 meters. I think that's the best way to do this. A lot of times you'll see they'll try to put 3 different decompression scales on the same bezel. It's a little bit too much. On this particular watch, they just give you 3 bezels. You can swap them out depending on what depth you're planning to dive to. If you're diving to 40 meters, it's going to tell you your decompression stops. So like at 9 meters, you gotta do this much. At 6 meters, you gotta do this much. Yeah, here's your first decompression stop at 9 meters. Your second decompression stop is at 6 meters. Your third decompression stop is at 3 meters. And it's based on the Bühlmann formula, which is actually on the back of the case. But Bühlmann was a scientist, Dr. Bühlmann, PhD, and he came up with the formula for decompression. And so these are based on that formula. All kind of interesting things on here. The bezel actually locks these crowns. So the bezel is actually some kind of locking mechanism that prevents you from using the crowns at all. So you have to push the bezel in and turn it in order to unlock these crowns so you can even use them. But what do all the crowns do? The middle crown is the time setting crown. You see, you just have a minute here. The hours are on this little disc here that turns, but that way you're just focused on this minute hand. That's what's most important. You can still see it's 10:08 right now. The only hand on the center is the minute hand. Okay, the next complication is this fly, no fly indicator here. I think you set that with this crown, but after you do a dive, according to Patty, you're not supposed to get on a plane before 12 hours have passed after your dive. If you do multiple dives, you're supposed to wait 18 hours. But this thing is designed to tell you when 12 hours have passed. You set that thing and it's red. Once it pops green, then you know you're safe to fly. Which is kind of cool. This second hand, small seconds here, You can use it to control your ascent. 10 minutes ascent time, it says. So you can use that for your ascent somehow. And the last complication is the internal rotating bezel. Yes, this entire bezel inside can rotate. And the whole thing is angled at like 5 degrees on the back. It's just, this thing is totally over-engineered. At 15.8 millimeters thick. Yeah, the average thickness for a 500 meter watch, let's go 600. Let's round up to 600. The average thickness for a 600 meter watch is 15. So this is about a millimeter thicker than average. It is thicker than average. It is bigger than average too with the 46. This is a tool watch. You know, this is like a diving tool. Total score of 92. In first place, the best watch in the premium category, the best dive watch in my opinion. And I kind of knew this before I even did it, but this is what it is. The Doxa Sub 300T Professional. Price of $1,890, size of 42.5 millimeters, 1,200 meters water resistance. Impressive. And for that 1,200 meter water resistance, it has a thickness that you'd expect to see on a 300 meter water resistance watch. The average for 300 meters is 13.7. That's what this has. For 1,200, the average is 15. So this is 1.5 millimeters thinner than average for the 1,200 meter water resistance rating. So yeah, it's just kind of a normal thickness watch. Not too crazy big either, 42.5. It's not too crazy. There is apparently an extension on this bracelet that it has. That's really nice. I mean, I love the style of this Doxa 300. I think that's their best design. They have a 4000T that's similar, but it's just not the same. It's not as funky. I think this one does it the best. Really interesting how they have this beefy, thick minute hand, and then this teeny tiny little hour hand. They really want you to see the difference between the hands. I like that. You get that multifunction bezel with your no deco times and your minutes here. Now, it doesn't match exactly the no deco times on some other things. Lume looks okay. Nothing to really write home about. Just get your standard dive lume. Very cool watch. Total score of 92. All right, those were the top 10. Now for the twist, we are going to go to the conventional top 10. When I finished the dive video and got to the end, I noticed there were some kind of big, kind of funky looking watches. So I redid the scores. I did a second top 10. I thought, let's do a top 10 that is kind of smaller. It's got smaller watches, maybe a little more conventional looking. So here's the conventional top 10 for the premium. You're going to get smaller watches. That's the bottom line. A little bit more automatics. Premium dive watches, conventional top 10. In 10th place, we have the Mido Ocean Star Tribute. Price of $1,070, size of 40.5 millimeters, and water resistance of 200. Kind of average thickness, nothing too fancy. Yeah, this made it in the top 10 once I, more highly praised the smaller sizes. In 9th place is the Echo Nutra Cristallo. We saw that in the Enthusiast top 10, and here it is in the conventional as well. It has lost a little bit of place. Some other watches have kind of come up to replace it. But it's a 42, so it's still a good size for conventionally minded folks. Yeah, this gets an A-. In 8th place is that Doxa 600T. This kind of came up a little bit. It's a 40 millimeter watch. I chose a different colorway. The black one does actually look better than that yellow one, in my opinion. Yeah, it's in 8th place now. In 7th place, now we have the Squale 1521. I was just talking about this one. Here's the black version, so you can see that. I think this does actually look better than the Azuro Blue. Great size, 12.5. I mean, the Rolex Submariner is a 12 millimeter watch, so this is just a 0.5 millimeter thicker, but you also get to go up to 500 meters. So this is a nice wearing experience, from what I can tell. In 6th place is the Dievas Maya Mark III. We also just saw this one in the Enthusiast top 10. Here's the black dial, looking good. It's got that kind of Flieger look to it. In 5th place, here's a new one for the top 10, is the Gnault Silent Service. Great size, 41 millimeters and only 12.1 millimeters thick. It's got this kind of sapphire bezel cover, full lume bezel. The lume on this is fantastic. It looks like the lume is totally protected. There's some kind of cover for it, so that you'll really appreciate that, because when you have a full lume bezel and the lume is unprotected, it can get scratched really easily. So this is good. In 4th place is the Doxa Sub 300T. I just put up a different colorway. This blue is looking really nice. So that's our 4th place. Again, kind of just The loom is nothing to write home about, but it does the trick. And in third place, here's one that came out of nowhere. The Seiko 5303. Actually, I take that back. It was in 11th place on the Enthusiast scoring system. We adjust it slightly to favor size. This 39mm watch does very well. Oh, it's missing the white on the scorecard, but yeah, there's a white, a blue, and a black. It's a 39mm, 12.2mm thick. Great wearing experience. And you get your multifunction bezel, dual time. Oh, they put the hours on the inside. Dual time and the minutes. Elapsed time. Second place, Yema Superman. We just saw this one. Here's the black one. I think I had the green one before. I actually think the black looks better. Number one, what's it gonna be? Number one conventional dive watch in the premium price category is the Sinn 105 STSA. It's a good size. It's under 12 millimeters. It's thinner than that Rolex Submariner. Size of 41 millimeters. Yeah, great choice. It is a tooly looking watch. I'll give it that. We have some pretty ones in here too, though, if you want to go pretty instead of tooly. That was it. The premium price category. Yeah, so that's it for the premium price category. Man, there was so much good stuff in here. It's nuts. Doxa, Sinn, Certina, Squale, Titoni, Seiko, Formex, Mido, Stova, Laco, Marathon. I mean, there's so much good stuff in this price range. It's kind of nuts. The deepest dive watch of all time, the H2O Calmar 2. Yeah, this Delma is, I mentioned it's a contender. It's definitely a contender. That's because there's wild cards in the last video. I select wild cards. This is one of the wild cards, and it does really well in the last video. You'll see. Yeah, even this Longines is looking pretty darn good. I would not get this Dewberry thing or the plastic Alpina. Yeah, great options. I mean, yeah, this one looks really good. Orion. So many cool watches in this price range. Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing this one, and so thanks for watching. And if you have a little bit more time, I always like to talk about the Bible at the end, so that's what I'm going to do now. Alright, here's the bonus section, the after party, the Bible time. First of all, the disclaimer. I'm not a pastor or even a biblical scholar. I'm just someone who reads the Bible and likes to share it with others. Just a Christian. Today I want to read the passage Hebrews 10, 1 through 4. So the theme is the payment for our sins. What are sins? Sins are violation of God's law. So anything we do to violate God's law. The Bible tells us that everyone has sinned. Everyone falls short of the glory of God. So let's read Hebrews 10, verse 1 through 4. This is the English Standard Version. For since the law has but a shadow of the good things to come instead of the true form of these realities, it can never, by the same sacrifices that are continually offered every year, make perfect those who draw near. Otherwise, would they not have ceased to be offered, since the worshippers, having once been cleansed, would no longer have any consciousness of sins? But in these sacrifices, there is a reminder of sins every year. They do it every year. They do the sacrifice every year. For it is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. Okay, so a little background information. Initially, God his covenant with Israel was just, here's my commandments, follow my commandments. And right off the bat, they didn't do it. I mean, Abraham was coming down the mountain with the tablets, with the 10 Commandments. They were already worshiping idols. Us humans could never live up to God's law from the beginning. There's instituted a series of atoning sacrifices that would be made. You know, in this passage, it was described that it would happen on an annual basis. But in these sacrifices, there's a reminder of sins every year. You know, the high priest would be our intercessor with God, and they would sacrifice the animals to cleanse our sin. But it had to be done continually. And at the end here, it's kind of heartbreaking for me to read it, but it says, it is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. That's the problem. That's the problem we all face, is that we can't really atone for our sins. Something else has to happen. There has to be grace of God. But some payment has to be made in God's law. He is perfectly holy, and these sins are evil. And so something has to be done about that. So what is our solution? Well, Christians believe that this has been paid for. All the sins have been paid for. All sins past, present, and future are paid for by the blood of Jesus Christ. I'm going to read some verses, maybe a little bit less organized than normal here, but let's go through the verses I wrote down. Luke 16, verse 17. But it is easier for heaven and earth to pass away than for one dot of the law to become void. Okay, the law stands. The law holds our universe together. There is good and there is evil. That is part of the formula for reality. It is easier for heaven and earth themselves to completely pass away, for one dot of the law to become void. So the law must be obeyed, a price has to be paid. Psalm 49:7. Truly, no man can ransom another or give to God the price of his life. I can't pay my brother's sin debt. I can't pay for the sins of anybody else. I can't pay for my own sins either, actually. Going down to verse 15, it says, But God will ransom my soul from the power of Sheol, for he will receive me. Selah. God is going to pay that price for me. I don't have to do it. Beautiful. That sacrifice of Jesus on the cross paid for all sins past, present, and future. One offering for sins forever. And that's in Hebrews 10 again. 10:10 says, And by that we will have been sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all. Jesus paid the price for all sins. He paid for it one time for all sins of all time. And in verse 17, it says, I will remember their sins and their lawless deeds no more. We will be wiped totally clean of our sins. Believers have been totally wiped clean of our sins the moment we repent of our sins and place our faith in Jesus as our Savior. Jeremiah 31:34. And we're just kind of looking at some verses here. There's not necessarily an overall outline to what I'm talking about here. Just some verses on the topic. Jeremiah 31:34. And no longer shall each one teach his neighbor and each his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. Another verse where God says he will not remember our sin, to the fulfillment of the payment for sin by Jesus. Let's go to Psalm 50. So who does this apply to? It's a great deal. We don't have to pay for our sin. Who does this apply to? Psalm 50, verse 5. Gather to me my faithful ones, who made a covenant with me by sacrifice. Covenant meaning agreement. The heavens declare his righteousness, for God himself is judge. Selah. Who are the ones that are made righteous by the blood of Jesus? Those who have made the covenant. Jesus is called the new covenant. John 6, verse 40 says, For this is the will of my Father, that everyone who looks on the Son and believes in him should have eternal life, and I will raise him up on the last day. That's who it applies to. Everyone who looks on the Son and believes in him. Yeah, let's go to John 3:16, a very famous verse. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. That's the covenant. Believing on Jesus is the covenant. We're covered by the blood when we believe on Jesus. The blood sacrifice, I mentioned that was part of God's law, is that sacrifices had to be made. Jesus is the perfect sacrifice, the perfect intercessor, the perfect high priest. His sacrifice covers all sins, past, present, and future. All who believe on him have their sins wiped clean. You know, I'm going to read a fairly long passage here. 1 Corinthians 15, 50 through 58. I tell you this, brothers, flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God, nor does the perishable inherit the imperishable. Behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised imperishable, and we shall be changed. For this perishable body must put on the imperishable, and this mortal body must put on immortality. He's talking about the resurrection. When the perishable puts on the imperishable, and the mortal puts on immortality, then shall come to pass the saying that is written, Death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is your victory? O death, where is your sting? The sting of death is sin, and the power of sin is the law. But thanks be to God, who gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. Therefore, my beloved brothers, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain. Jesus has defeated death. He has defeated sin. Thanks be to God who gives us the victory over sin and death through our Lord Jesus Christ. Beautiful. If you watch this, thank you for watching and listening. And I've got a short prayer. God, thank you for this day. So grateful for the provision you've given to me and to others. We're very blessed. I pray that you would strengthen world leaders and just give them discernment to make good decisions. I pray for peace and justice across the world. I pray that these leaders would turn to you, that they would become righteous, and that they would lead their countries well and keep their people safe. And I pray for an end to the wars. And I pray for your kingdom to come on earth. I pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace always and in every way. The Lord be with you all. See you next time. And I know that he'll be with